I guess we can start. Welcome and good evening to our council meeting. Just wanted to welcome our guests. Thank you very much for attending this evening. I'm sure there's more worthwhile things you could be doing on a Monday night, if I'm honest, but we thank you for attending. We've got one apology I'm aware of from Councillor Ellis, and one running late. Councillor Rees is going to be with us shortly, so hopefully we'll see him in a few minutes. Any declarations of interest? Yes, Councillor Westby.
Hamilton, section 8A.
Do we have declarations of interest or curious? Yes, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, so in item 12, just a personal interest as I volunteer with one of the groups that volunteer on council land, and also item 15, another personal interest as a member of the Outdoor Christmas Lights Committee, and on item 17, a personal interest, and I think that is everything.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Peter.
I suppose I should take item 12 as well as on volunteer.
Yeah, that's fine, and by all means, you're welcome to participate in that. I presume it's not a pecuniary interest.
No.
Okay. But thank you for noting it. Okay. Item 4 is straight on to you. Yeah, we don't hang around here if we can help it. We do like to go home in the evenings. So we've got some representatives this evening from Brecon Council that have introduced themselves and discuss what they're here to discuss. I should say on the agenda this evening, it is noted for information. Councillors are asked to make a decision on this. We are going to call an EGM next Monday where we can make a decision on this, so we can do it swiftly. But please feel free, councillors, to ask questions after they've shared some information.
Brilliant, thank you. So to introduce myself, I'm Caroline Bidewell. I'm Placemaking and Partnerships Manager at Brecon Council. I only joined the council 7 months ago. It's a new team, a new post, and really our team is responsible for the delivery of the district's placemaking ambitions. And key to that is the looking at this future Brecon work and sharing this vision together and delivering it together. There's been a huge amount of work which took place before I started, and that was led by Emma. I'll let Emma kind of explain how we've got to this point and a bit of a recap to the work which was involved.
So for those, because it was it was pulled around with 2 challenges. One being we needed to get ahead of the game with securing funding. So, I mean, despite the recent disappointment with Levelling Up Fund, which we're all really disappointed about, but we think that there'll be an opportunity with Tranche 3 funding. This work is there to enable us to be quicker off the mark and be better at playing the game with getting funding. Given so it gives us the town council, county, local businesses, community groups, residents, etc. So that was kind of the reasoning behind this future Brecon work, which essentially would give us an overarching perspective and vision for the district, but for each town. Each plan was pulled together by engaging in several ways, having a stall in the marketplace, coming into to yourselves, talking one-to-one with different community groups, business leaders, etc. The result of which is that we have a number of key game changers outlined in the town delivery plan, along with some supporting short-term tactical wins. It's been designed in that way because what we don't want to do is pay a lot of money again for a document sitting on the shelf. The big interventions are designed to take 10 years plus to deliver, and they all cost up to, if not more than, millions, multi-million pounds. We need stuff to show that we're delivering whilst we wait for those to come into play. We published this for a 6-week period for public feedback, which included feedback from myself, the town council. So I'll just reiterate where we got to for the kind of final document, which has been adopted by our own cabinet. I lose track of time, a couple of weeks ago. First one is integrated Attleborough. This is the one that we heard loud and clear actually, and this was in connection with the sustainable urban extension, making sure that the old and the new town doesn't become the old and the new town separately, it becomes one whole Attleborough. So that is looking at things like improving the cycling and walking access, crossing over the railway line, which is the real physical divide through the old and the new there. Again, providing or improving footways, particularly along Station Road, delivering some pocket parks between London Road and the A11 and southwest of Attleborough, and looking to deliver the second stage of the Link Road for phase 2 of Attleborough Zoo development. The second one is commercial Attleborough, and that's looking at developing national rail buildings by Attleborough Station into an office hub with 5G and superfast broadband, looking at a new public space adjacent to the station with public Wi-Fi and potentially new retail units, planters, better and improved public realm. And then also looking at a new commercial development between London Road, A11 and Breckland Lodge, Wellington Street area. Connected Attleborough. My memory is not that good, so I'm afraid I want to look at my phone, which is connected Attleborough, and this is looking at cycling and walking links to integrate Attleborough with key employment areas, particularly looking at Snetterton, new developments there, Windham and Hethel. Looking at repairing and integrating existing cycleways and improved cycle crossings over the A11, especially the B110 set. I think this is the one that you fed back actually by the West Car Road. Is that one? Yeah. And then lastly, you have engaged Attleborough, and that is looking at things like delivering the new 3G football pitch, a new youth club delivered as part of the wider development at the old brush factory, and making improvements to existing recreational sites, provide things like flood lighting, improved training facilities, and increased accessibility. Again, that's taken into account the big development of the town, the community assets need to be able to support that. Again, that's supported by the quick wins. So that is looking at wayfinding interventions to improve the market facility, health and active travel improvements, supporting businesses to improve things like loading bays in the town centre, improving bus shelters, etc. There are some longer term endorsements. There's something that came up with skills. So there is a long term endorsement to also support vocational and technical offer for 19 to 16-year-olds. And again, potential site for that opportunity is the old brush factory. So it's making use of that asset there. I think that's a kind of skip through of where we are with that one. Obviously, the next steps is how we're going to make that happen. So I'll hand that over to Caroline in terms of governance. I know there were a lot of questions about how that's going to happen. I'll hand over.
Yeah, so a shared delivery plan is being put in place. Key to that is the future Breckland board, which will be overseeing the Breckland prospectus, and that's the along with the town delivery plans in each of the 5 towns and the evidence encyclopedia, which gives all the detail to why we need this investment locally. There's the Breckland prospectus, which has the district-wide vision. The group that is kind of looking after that and overseeing that is a group of county and district representation, as well as the LEP and groups including like kind of the community group representation and private sector as well. So a really mixed stakeholder group, which we hope will be able to pull their resources together in order to make things happen, but more on a kind of district-wide level. For the interventions within the town delivery plans, we really want to have a real project focus and really bring in the key stakeholders and working groups who can really push the projects forward. Key to that in Attleborough we hope will be the future Attleborough Partnership. We're looking to recruit a post in the next couple of months, which will be hopefully supported by yourselves, county, as well as Homes England and Ptarmigan. And that post will be key, sitting within our team, will be delivering these interventions and bringing the partnership together to get these things going. Another group which will be key on an annual basis, we're going to have town forums, because we understand that these delivery plans are only really as good as when we had all the evidence from yourselves, when we consulted with you. So we want to make sure that they're really relevant. So on an annual basis, we hope to invite everyone to get together, go through the interventions and make sure that we're still addressing the needs for each town. So that's really key. Just to highlight, as kind of Emma touched on, that our cabinet agreed and adopted these plans, I think it was towards the end of November last year, and we're going to each of the towns for each town to adopt them. So far, Dereham, Swaffham and Watton have agreed that we want to share this approach together. And yeah, really looking forward to hopefully working with you all to kind of really see some results on the plans which are set out. But any questions, I'll open it up to you.
Thanks. Any questions? Roger.
Yeah. Thanks for that. My query really was about funding for doing these things. How will the sniffing out of pots of money be done? Will it be from a district wide? Will it be done from the project manager's point of view? How do you see that happening?
Well, within the Women, Economy and Growth, we have posts within our team who are specifically looking at funding pots which are available, and obviously they have sight of these plans and we work together. Again, with the future partnership board, that we'll be able to kind of work with. We're hoping we're going to be able to work with our county partners in that way, that we're all working together and looking at this as one. So hopefully funding will come from there.
Thank you. Welcome this. Going in the right direction. I'm just wondering, do you think there's a disconnect between the Future Brecon board and then you've got project teams at the local level? So I know that we're talking about us as a partnership manager, but in terms of that ability of town or parish councils and what have you, being involved from the board that sets strategy, I understand that, and goals and everything else, but actually these are the things we're going to do rather than jumping straight into the projects with that disconnect. Because the project's already been decided with the town council and looking for no town or parish council representatives on there. How do you think that might work?
It's quite a difficult question to answer. I think basically
You don't have to answer it then.
Yeah. I think we're going to just have to give this kind of plan a go and see where it gets to. But we're hoping that there's enough representation from town. There will be enough representation from town and district at each level that we're all tying everything in together. And ultimately, it's going to take some good communication skills from ourselves to make sure that everyone knows that that we're working together effectively.
Can I just ask?
Of course, yes.
Trying to be official, so something. So hopefully, what I would hope, and, I'm sure that the rest of the council would agree that that there's that joint working relationship. So this is the structure as it exists at the moment. If things are not working, or each party can say we can do things better, or we really do not like this, there is that opportunity to change it rather than that's what you've agreed. This is it for the next 5, 10, 15 years, everything else.
That's right.
Sorry, you're outside the tent. You can't.
No, certainly not. No, it's we'll have to see how it goes and happy to relook at it.
I know that those reassurances have been given to other towns who have asked similar questions as well, having spoken to other market towns. That have got this already. So yes, and one of the things you'll see, I think it's point 2.2 of the plan. You'll see that with the town forums, there's also an option for what we're looking to as well, which is a partnership forum, which can feed into this as well to help alleviate that. So yes, Debbie.
Just a clarification on something that Ed sort of touched on himself. So we're in the process of putting together a partnership and recruiting somebody that is separate to this. Yes, or you're now talking about recruitment.
I would say, if you look at 2.2, if you happen to have documents or access to it, it looks like it's working in partnership with this group.
It's really the, if you go to 2.5, the town specific steering group as required, that's where it's giving us the flexibility in each town, because not every town's fortunate to, will be fortunate to have a partnership group. Obviously that works in Deptford and they'll be used as that town steering group. But yeah, it's as I say, it's as required because we just don't have that ability.
And we're hoping to follow the Deptford model because that is working really well at Deptford.
Yes, it is,
So we're hoping to follow that. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Dominic.
Hello there. You mentioned the youth group at the old brush factory.
Mhm.
Lighthouse Centre. Can you explain a bit more what that would involve and what?
Tested my memory now.
Sorry.
All of the detail is in the plan, but actually, as all of the interventions are laid out, they're deliberately not prescriptive to the kind of minute details. So a lot of the first steps will be feasibility. We just don't understand what the need is locally, and that would be the first step. Is going out and finding out what that demand is to make sure that whatever investments put in is fit for purpose for the local area.
As far as our involvement to date with the brush factory, we're only really in a position to offer, we sent them over funding opportunities and pointed them in the right direction. It's not something we've specifically kind of led on. We've kind of got to let that group. We're supporting where we can.
There's certainly some synergy there, and I know that both parties are interested from speaking to the groups. So yes. Anyone else? No. Well, as was mentioned, unfortunately, we didn't put it down for resolution this evening, but we will be holding the meeting next Monday, so it gives us an opportunity to do that. In the meantime, council has advised you to go away and have a look at this again, so we can consider it for next week. I don't know, I don't want to prejudice anyone on this, but I believe, like Councillor Tyra said, it is a positive step forward in building a good partnership, which gives us the best opportunity to acquire funding for these community projects that we've been fighting for. So yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for your time today. You don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting. You'll be glad to.
You make it sound like we don't want to do that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Feel free to take
Thank you. Okay, public participation. Give a few minutes for this. Anyone from the public would like to say anything?
I'd like to say why I'm here initially.
By all means,
I've
would you
got-
like to introduce yourself?
Yes, David Booth. I've conversed with you over email. I'll get to that one. But one of the main things was why I'm here was saw a flurry of new YouTube videos. And one of the things over COVID and lockdown, being able to watch things was good. And I feel quite strongly that should carry on.
Yeah.
And that. The second one is Skate Park.
Yeah.
Again, I reached out to try and support and help with that. And just seeing it on the thing was another item to come along and see that you get it right. And some of that.
We'll try our best to get it right. So thank you very much for
watching those videos. There's some concerns and things that we may be slipping back towards where we were. So I thought I'd come and see it for myself.
You're very welcome to do so. Hopefully we can handle ourselves in a professional manner this evening. Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Do you want me to sit in the public, because it is a request from a member of the public?
I think we're all happy for you to sit there. We don't have to move you down there. Are we all okay? I'm not saying something else like we're reading to you, am I?
I have a request from a member of the public, if we could have seats at some of the outside bus stops, you know, down near the school, near Rosecroft. And is there any possibility that any of them could just have a shelter across? I know it's not our land, and I know it'll have to be taken further, but she did ask me to bring it up, which I have done.
We can certainly raise that and make a note of it. It might be something that goes into environmental consideration, seems the right place for it. But councillor Torre, do you want to come in on to that?
I think I recall quite a while ago asking that to go back to highways to say, why is there no accessible stops with shelters at Taylor Wimpey, which quite frankly the developer should pay for. But also it was part of rural highways, well, county look at putting real-time information on the bus stops. So it has been raised previously. We have raised it here.
Can we have that as a point to follow up on?
Yeah.
And report back to the environmental committee for consideration?
I'm just saying it's been brought up before.
Yeah. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, similarly to Vera, I've received representations from 3 residents now, 2 via telephone calls, 1 in person, concerned that Albury no longer has a TIC, because the library apparently aren't taking it. I don't know how much truth there is in that, but apparently it's not being rehoused in the library. So they're worried that obviously, actually no, 4, I've had someone contact me on Facebook as well. Worried that obviously that facility is going to be lost for a town that's already our size and then growing. And when that conversation has progressed, all 4 people have suggested that obviously that downstairs room be used by the town council as an office that's open and accessible with a designated area for town information. So that's the representation for us.
Okay, thank you. I don't want to put Michelle on the spot, but do we have any more information on that?
On the spot. So it is, unfortunately, these places are closing down everywhere, which isn't ideal, but they are. We were quite confused by the feedback we got, because it does actually come under their jurisdiction to provide it, not ours. But when we initially asked about the opportunity to relocate it to the library, which seemed to be the right way to have it, the suggestion was that the town council would have to pay a significant amount of money to do that, and that it would be in the thousands, not the hundreds, which confused us somewhat, because ultimately it's a lot of information, it doesn't really take much in the way of manpower. Having said that, obviously that room has been manned by the community car people for the last, well, since I've been here certainly, and every single person that has manned that community cars has said nobody's ever gone in there for anything other than a community car. So that kind of contradicts the feedback you've had, which is quite interesting. Because when we actually went in, when the community car shut down, a lot of the leaflets, I mean, we were pulling leaflets out of the information racks. There were 2007 leaflets, 2004 leaflets, 2012 leaflets. So that, you know, and that's not criticism of everyone, but it wasn't being managed as a TIC. So it doesn't work in that context. If anybody has any ideas how we might be able to encourage the library to take it on, I certainly have no problem with having a leaflet rack with the most valid forms of information, for example, bus timetables. But the truth of the matter is that all the leisure and days out, they didn't get touched for years. Nobody comes into them, and that's, you know, that's how it is.
Is it because people do most things online now, and if they want to look up something, they look it up online?
I wouldn't like
I'm sure there is.
to.
However, I think it seems to be raised, as you said, councillor Taylor. It may be worth us revisiting that with the Norfolk County Council to see if there's any movement that we can have on that, because I feel that the library setting would be ideal. It's manned throughout the daytime. It's an access point for information. They have like racks there with stuff, leaflets and things. It can be in the entrance area of the library without having to accommodate much on that. So we'll pursue that further and we'll report back if we can. Okay.
The library are extending, so it might be easier when they've got the front doors open and using all that front area.
Very good points as well. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Councillor Taylor, did the people that contacted you give any indication of the type of things that they were wanting to be able to access?
One of the ladies that I spoke to on the phone did specifically mention bus timetables. I don't think necessarily for herself, she was just concerned that we're already large town and now about to grow, and that it was just a facility she felt the town should have. One of the lady rather that contacted me on Facebook, she uses it to pick up again leaflets and information, and I think some of those are for like a gardening group or something that she does, and then also for Morley Village Hall maybe, I'm not sure, but there's like I'm not 100% sure, but she'd come in and collect leaflets to take somewhere else or for another purpose, and she said to me that she now has to go to Winding, so there is an alternative, but it's not in town and it's not ideal, I don't think.
Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Just to give you some idea of context, I've just done a double check. Norwich Tourist Information Centre, Norwich being considerably larger, closed nearly 2 years ago. Norwich doesn't have one anymore.
They are closing everywhere, unfortunately.
We will certainly take this up, and if there are certain leaflets that we feel are valuable to the community, as Clark has said, we're happy to put a rack up with a limited amount of those that are more valuable.
Yeah,
on there.
definitely.
So there may be a workaround on this. We'll do our best on this. Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Lane.
Yeah, on the bus times, is there a way that we could put something up on the new BT board? Maybe looking for, the new interactive.
That's a really good point.
I know that that's not something someone can take home in their shopping basket, but that is another possibility.
Yeah, thank you. I like
Because I think the bus companies now online are very accurate with their keeping people up to date on the bus delays and that. So how useful the leaflet would be compared to more up to date. I don't know.
It is close to the main bus stop in the town as well. That might be a very good thing. And it's good thinking like this, so we can come up with solutions. I know this is not members participation, public participation, and we're having a good chat about this. Is there anything else from the public before we carry on?
There are QR codes for bus stops.
There are, yeah, there are, absolutely, and that's another good point. Perhaps we advertise, if you get the app, you can use QR codes as well.
Not accessible to everyone.
No, but it's useful.
They used to put a thing on bus stops with the times on, didn't they? On a,
I haven't seen
I
that.
don't know.
Oh,
It's still got
yeah. Thanks very much. Anyway, we'll conclude public participation that part, but thank you very much for raising those points. Be glad to help. Okay, on to the minutes for the town council meeting held on the 9th of February this year. January, I'm in February, aren't I? Thank you.
Can I just raise this point?
Yeah, sure.
Under council reports, 145.22, where Councillor Taylor reported the last little bit, and the Norfolk County Canisters and the Queen Square. That was the Bloomers that kindly did that. So should we not mention that it was the last litter pick at Decoy Common held by the Bloomers, and also the Queen Square planting the bulb, that was the Bloomers, that wasn't us that planted.
Just clarify that, Councillor Taylor, is
Is that
that
right?
correct?
Yeah, that is, yeah.
Would you have any objection to that being noted? Because I think sometimes there might be the presumption. It's
Yeah, no,
council.
I did say at the time, I obviously have so many hats, I don't know
Yeah.
which one I'm wearing.
So no, we're very happy to exclude.
Yeah.
That's a proposal for amendment. Is there any other comments?
Sorry, yeah, have members had a version of the minutes that's unredacted so that they can actually confirm the accuracy of what's blacked out? Because I did raise this with Michelle and with Anne prior to the meeting, but I just don't know how
Well,
without
the
members. seeing
redacted
it.
version is what's before us, and if councillors want to know those figures, they can apply.
Oh,
to
it's,
it.
oh, I didn't
So,
know
yeah.
that was.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So the redacted one is what's here, so it isn't actually approving that figure because it's a redacted one. So it doesn't necessarily have to be approved with that on there, but we do, the councillors are entitled to find out that information if they want it.
But sorry, I don't know if I'm having a bit of a brain fart here. How do they know that the figure that's inserted is accurate?
There's no.
It's not X, not Y.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
because
If they can't see it, to know that it's what's been recorded is accurate. I'm so confused.
the minutes as we see them before us
Mhm.
don't have a figure in there. So it's the rest of the information on there. If they want to make a point of seeing that figure is correct, they're very welcome to do so.
Okay.
In fact, we can provide that to councillors.
Oh, it's not that I'm curious about that. It was just about the accuracy of whatever that figure is.
Yeah.
If they then approve the minutes, but it's actually wrong, the wrong figure's been inserted, they wouldn't know. That was the question.
Okay. Anything else?
Can I
Yes.
just make an observation? I had an incident like this when I was on the other council. What we did was we put that figure and the full details in a sealed envelope, which was then signed by the chairman, and filed that with these papers for future use, with strict instructions that it could only be opened by a future chair or deputy chair, and not for general release.
That seems prudent for all councillors in this case, yeah, absolutely. That seems a prudent way forward, and because it is a legally binding contract, it isn't something that can be changed from this point anyway. So I think that's a prudent way of handling that. Yes, thank you. So with the amendment suggested by Councillor Lane, would anyone like to propose the acceptance of these things? Councillor Dale, Councillor McKinnon, show of hands for approval, please. And those opposed and abstentions. One abstention, Councillor Taylor. Approved. The next minutes of the extraordinary meeting held on the 23rd of January. With the rain this time. Any comments on those? Councillor Smith.
I thought I said my apologies for that. Oh, sorry, I just found my dish.
Forget that.
You did indeed. Okay.
Just a thought and you know, we've put what was resolved. We haven't put any kind of background, you know, the fact that the clerk was able to look at other funding and that the budget hadn't changed, because that was a question I specifically asked.
That was a question you asked, I remember.
That the budget hadn't changed, it was just our means of funding the budget by due diligence by the clerk had enabled us to reduce the precept to 6%. And I don't know whether
How do
you
you feel about that? As
Well, we
clerk?
tend to just put in resolutions unless there's some really pertinent background information, so I just kept it short, but I'm more than happy to edit that and add why we brought that back and what
I
it
think
was.
it's important that we make a note that the budget hasn't changed.
Yeah, but this
That's because that's a matter of public interest. isn't it?
Yeah.
So because it's a matter of public interest and our budget is one of the big ticket items that, you know, we have to account for with residents. I feel it's appropriate to also make a note that the budget wasn't changed and it was for the purposes of reducing the precept,
precept to the public.
Yeah.
Not reducing the budget.
not reducing the budget for the council.
Sorry, am I being?
No, I think it's a valid point and it, you know, it adds transparency and accountability for what we do. So thank you for that. Anyone else? Would anybody like to propose acceptance of that with the amendment from Councillor McKinnon? And anyone would like to second that? Councillor Taylor, and a show of hands for approval. Any objections and abstentions? We have 3 abstentions, I take it, because you weren't there. Okay. Thank you. To planning matters. 7A, which is plan applications or agreed responses made for ratification or confirmation by members. Any questions? If someone would like to propose their acceptance. Councillor Westby, Councillor Lane to second, and the show of hands for approval. Any opposed? Any abstentions? 2 abstentions, Councillor Taylor, Councillor Vera, because of their roles at Brecon Council, I take it. Okay. 7B. The first item of the planning applications for responses to be made is ending 0016/VAR, and it's to do with the driveway, or former garden garage driveway. Is that Douglas House? Is that how you pronounce it? Okay. Hopeless at pronouncing names like this. So, any questions? No objections? Okay, we'll approve all of the responses at the end of this section. The next item, 0904/O, and that's on Carver's Lane outline planning permission for residential developments. Any queries or questions on this? No, I think it comes under the remit of Brecon Council to make sure it's got appropriate highways and attenuation, etc. on that. But it's hard to object when so much has already been put down there already. So no objections. Okay. The next one, 0057/VAR, which is a variation of condition 2 for land located on West Car Road. It's minor changes to windows and bits and pieces. Any objections? No. 0065/0, which is land adjacent to Rosecroft Primary School, London Road, the erection of 8 houses. I have a bit of concern about this, if I'm being honest. I know it's a matter for Brecon Council to be there, but that is an area of intense footfall going into the schools. And I have a little concern a driveway adjacent to the going into the school could be problematic when we have so many issues with cars in that area already. I don't know whether I can object on that, but I certainly have a personal concern on that.
Highways.
So I know it's highways things, it is, yeah, but I'm just raising it for consideration. Councillor Tyler.
I think, if I recall, I think that vote is sailed, because that whole land 10 metres
Is it?
was approved, and that frontage, and then when there was,
Yeah,
as you know, the swapping of education land to employment land, vice versa.
Yeah.
So I think the principle of development is already there. This has just come forward now, so it's been vacant for years now. So, but I take your point, but to be honest, on highways, 8 houses, peak periods, it's. Yeah.
Okay, understood. Councillor Lane.
I'd sort of, hearing what both of you are saying, yes, we knew this was going to be coming along. However, since Rosecroft opened, we've had continuing problems with the amount of cars down there. And so obviously this is going to be built, but it is going to cause even more problems because everyone's going to want to park down there. And so all of the residents, new residents are going to get cross. So it's just, I understand it's out of our remit anyway, but I think it's worth us noting that this is an area that does have significant problems with the footfall and with the amount of, and it hasn't been resolved yet. In that, you know, we still don't have, you know, a suitable solution where residents in the area are complaining regularly about people parking in their driveways and parking down their roadways. So this is going to happen with this area as well. It's even closer to Rose Park than parking down New Road.
Well,
But we can't stop it, but, you know,
but it is land off London Road, so
yeah, you can't do it.
people are not going to park up their drives, and if they do, that's part of the matter. It's already been agreed in principle.
So they already are.
We've made representations in the past, over the years as a council, like problems with highways. The only way, such as the highway should put proper bus stop access in the first place, is you just put bollards down there to make sure people park on the roads.
Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I was just going to say, while the decision obviously is not the town council's, the town council are a statutory consultee for a purpose, and that purpose is if you have concerns to make them. So if you have objections on the grounds of, you know, highway safety concerns, although obviously highways are also a statutory entity, that is a perfectly acceptable reason to raise those concerns or objections.
Thank you, Tanya.
Yeah, I think if we do have concerns, we can say we have concerns, you know. We have concerns over the traffic there and school periods and
I
their
do
voiced our
want to lead
concerns.
the council down something, if it's not your feelings on this, you know, it has to be a consensus. Easy to work this as a council, just give you an indicative nod or agreement on this, making a note that we are concerned that there are unresolved traffic issues around Rosecroft School that need to be considered in this application. Is that a worthy thing to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's quite fair because this has come up so many times before about it's not so much the parking, it's the dropping off of children at the start of school and picking them up after school. That seems to be the biggest problem. And people are parking anywhere they can.
Thank you.
If somebody feels so inclined, they can actually go to the planning meeting and have 3 minutes to put your views across before the decision is taken or discussed.
We might well do that. Might be good practice for us as a council to do that occasionally. So yes, are you happy then? There's consensus for that as a response. Thank you. And then finally, 0043/VAR, which is Hill Common Farm. Hill Common. This is a variation of the cart sheds there. No objections? Very, very minor change. I can't see the detail. Okay, on those no objections, accepting the one that we've noted with Rosecroft School, would anyone like to propose that as our response? Councillor De Sosa, Councillor Montague, second, the show hands for approval. And I think there's just 2 abstentions as previously. Thank you. Okay, financial matters. Councillor Espin, please. Yeah, no check, thank you. So it is item 8A to authorise payments. Any questions or queries? If I could have a proposer then for their acceptance. Councillor Lane, anyone like to second that? Councillor McKinnon, and a show of hands for approval. Any objections? Any abstentions? 1 abstention. Okay. I'll invite Councillor Westby back in. Item 8B to agree direct debits. Any questions? If someone would like to propose their acceptance. Councillor McKinnon, Councillor Montague, and show hands for approval. I believe that's unanimous. That's all. To receive income. Any questions? Would someone like to propose their acceptance? Councillor Taylor, Councillor Westby, show hands for approval. I believe that's unanimous. Under information, petty cash. Does anybody have any questions? No. And the income and expenditure report for December. Item E, for information. Any questions? Item F, appointment of internal auditor, consideration and resolution. Any questions on this? A proposal is made, or recommendation is made within this item. If anyone would like to propose that we accept that recommendation, Councillor Dale. Yeah, and anyone seconding that? Councillor Lane, and a show of hands for approval. I think that was unanimous. Did I miss anyone? One. Okay. On to item 9. London Road play area, additional fence. This is in relation to the front fencing that was part of the consideration we've had since everything looks nice and shiny behind it. And we're getting a lot of good reports and recommendations on it. The front fence looks a bit tired and old comparatively. And we've been given some options from the people who are doing the work at the moment to install fencing. Any questions on this?
Is there a recommended? So the reason I thought it would be useful to bring back these options is we obviously had the intention to replace that front fence, and we could do it in the matching fence to what we've done everything else. But I was slightly mindful that because it's also a playing area, there are ball games and the current fence is slightly higher. So really that's why I wanted councillors to have the opportunity to decide whether that was adequate or whether they felt we should retain a higher fence as we currently do. I think if I'm correct, the 1.5 metre, which will be the higher, is a longer lead time, isn't it, Anne? It is a much longer lead time for the higher fence.
Standard.
Yeah, so the option 1 or option 2, we would be able to get installed more quickly.
What's the height fence at the moment?
So it's not far off. So it's about the one on the new play area is 1 metre, but the one on the front going to the road is near 1.5.
And we've got 2 lower cost options of 1 metre and 1.2 metres. There's barely anything between those two, to be fair, because it's standardised. And then quite a jump to 1.5 metres. Yeah, I kind of with you with that, Councillor Westby, because we've moved the ball games further back as a result of the play equipment we've done, realistically. And for the sake of that much, when we're talking in the region of around about £4,500 of council pay or taxpayers' money, I think realistically the 1.2 metres offers the best value for money whilst protection. That's my feelings.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, Councillor.
No, I'm not going to correct you.
I wouldn't mind if you did.
I'm just going to ask a question, possibly Councillor Dale can help this. How about children with that height of fence? Is it that okay for safety reasons? I mean, I'm talking about them climbing the fence to get over to this.
1.2 is standard on most. It's
Yes,
standard.
it is.
Yeah.
1.2, 1.3. But 1.2 is, yeah.
is standard for most fenced
Yeah.
in park areas. Okay. So
So I propose option 2.
go for it.
I'll
Why not?
second it.
You put a motion in and then seconded.
I second
Are there any other motions before we go this one? No? Well, this motion is put to us. We accept option 2 of 1.2 metres, and those in favour can show by raised hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Yeah, quick question, what's the lead-in time on those ones?
Oh, I haven't really knows better than me, but it's much quicker, wasn't it? We originally said we have it done by half term, which obviously is going to be too tight now. But the suggestion was that the first was the stock items, so it'd be more a case of when we could get the supply, I think, than having a lead time on the product.
Okay, on to item 10. Recording meeting considerations. We're trying to find a workable and reliable solution to our live meetings. Since we've gone for high-speed broadband, we're having more problems than less problems for some reason. We know that there's a lot of high-speed broadband work and fibre work being done locally. Maybe that's an issue. We are trying to get to the bottom of it, having resolved it. We have 1 or 2 issues with recording as well. But what we wanted is a workable solution for the council that didn't necessarily leave us in breach of any conditions that we have on the council. So we're looking for something to supersede any previous conditions. And something that we were thinking about was loading the YouTube recording. So we've got YouTube accessibility for the YouTube videos. So we record the meeting and load it onto YouTube within the same time scale that we do for our minutes, which is 5 working days. 10 working days.
So just to add, we can do that quicker now, so I don't mind saying that Anne and I struggled a bit with how to do this, because you have to convert the, it's doing the sound but not the video, I think it's doing the sound but not the video. You have to convert the file and then upload it, which is, you know, we're not the most techy, but we have now figured out how to do it. So after the meeting, you just need to give the computer a period of time and just sort of leave it doing its thing to convert the file, and then we can upload. So I just feel that's probably a more reliable way of making sure that you've got a file to upload, that when we try and do it live, it cuts out halfway through and it's gone forever. Whereas if we're recording it onto the device, we can then convert it, and we know we've got that backup copy. And Anne and I have been working on that last week, haven't we, on how to get them uploaded, which we can now do. So that's fairly simple for us, but it depends what council wants to do.
Councillor
I'd just say, I think it's really important that the public can, you know, view our meetings, because some people can't make it. But this issue of the live broadcasts going wrong and then losing them forever, Breckland themselves, their December the 6th meeting broadcast with no sound, and like I say, once it's broadcast, you can't get that sound back. Whereas if you record it and then upload it, at least then you know you've got, you know, you haven't lost it forever, sort of thing.
We've got a few grounders to work through, but I feel it's a more reliable solution. And we may return to live stream at some point when we've got this, but what we want is a workable resolution for the council that records and preserves the meetings as best we can for a period of time. Yes, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I was just going to say the suggestion that it's done in the same time frame as the minutes, I thought was a sensible suggestion.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd happy to.
Are you happy to raise it as a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And anyone to second that, please? Councillor Red, so if we get that approved, please, if there's anything for approval. And I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you. We can revisit this in the future when technology permits, but it's certainly a workable, better solution at the moment that allows people to view it on YouTube. Why you would ever want to do so, I don't know. You must have more interesting things to do.
Pops up on my YouTube. The concurrency of the meeting, because some, like say, you've got an EGM next week, that's 7 days after this meeting. So the quicker you can get it there. But I'm in tech, so I get the challenges.
So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, item number 11. the Woodland Jubilee. Just to give you a little bit of historical background on this, we are not approving a quotation today. What we are approving is something more than that. Very late in the day, under the S106, which we thought we were getting for the cemetery, and then the car park, we were told it wasn't suitable for the S106 allocation. I'm explaining this publicly. Most, if not all, councillors are aware of this. And as a result, we were strongly advised by Brecon Council that one of our other projects that was ongoing, the Jubilee Woodland, would be suitable to gain these funds. If a suitable project cannot be found for these funds would get returned back to the developer. And we are keen to put those funds to work within our community for obvious reasons. So we followed the direction of Brecon Council. We acquired plans. Thank you very much, Councillor Westby, for sacrificing your time and energy for that, and your professionalism. Thank you very much for that. And we acquired a very quick quote to give us an indicative idea of a project cost that could be put to Brecon to evidence this was a viable project to go forward and the funds can be allocated. I believe the decision is being made on the 8th.
Yeah, it is. So this has been slightly contentious in terms of the order that it's gone in. The deadline for submission was the 8th, so I will admit that I believe we had time to discuss this tonight, ratify it and then put it in. The timescales didn't quite work like that, so we submitted it because it was what we have. But I put it on the agenda tonight because I think it's important that we still have the agreement that people are willing, members are supporting the project, and it's not an unsupported project going forward.
I think that's really important.
So, for clarification then, so once it is in principle agreed, then we'll go form scope agreed and get 3 quotes.
We'll go to, at this value, we'll go to tender.
Yeah.
So this contractor, because they're already doing some other work for us, I said, would you have a look at this and give us a rough idea based on Councillor Westby's plans? So we've got something realistic to take forward to Brecon. So at that stage, that's all that is. We haven't even discussed exactly how we want the woodlands to look. That's subject to change, but we had to have something to give Brecon an idea of what this would look like.
Any questions? Yes, Reece.
So just to confirm, I know you've said it, but this isn't the final plan draft that will be put down.
It's so we can secure the money, so we know we've got the funding pot to move this project forward.
That's what I understood, but just wanted to confirm.
No. And that we need to let people know. This isn't something hurried through with, a dodgy quote that we've got through the back door or something. Oh, I've heard all sorts. Correctly understand, this is a council working proactively in cooperation with the district council to secure funds for the betterment of the community, and the planning of which will involve the community going forward. We're very keen that it isn't just a council project, but it's a community project. We want it to be a community woodland. That's why we want to set up, as we said in here, some sort of working group that will open the doors to people like the academies, who will see these trees grow into the future and be part of it, and other community groups that can input into this. So yes, that's what we're looking for. 1, approval in principle for ratifying the action we're taking, but secondly, so we can do it properly. Yes.
Sorry, yeah, just to add, so I think the word that I keep using on this is indicative. It's a starting point. Brecon needed to see something, some kind of image that would give them, because they're not psychic, to give them some sort of image of what we wanted to do. But of course it will be consulted, it will go to tender, we'll do it all properly. One thing I did want to add though, just quickly, is I was quite excited today because I emailed them quite a while ago, but this morning I got an email back from 2 ladies at Norfolk Wildlife Trust who were super keen to come and meet with us. Super keen to advise us on what they think is suitable planting and suitable layout. So again, all of these external stakeholders are going to help form what this ends up being going forward.
Thank you, that's really good news. Councillor Lane.
And just a bit more background to put on public record, that this idea was first mooted before the Jubilee last year, as when we were discussing what would be a fitting memorial to the Queen to celebrate her Jubilee. As residents will know, we have a hump on the Queen's Square, which was put there for Queen Victoria, you know, and we discussed whether we should have a statue or what. So the idea was put forward, and conversations we started to think about where we could find some land that we could do this on, but it's taken a long while to actually know the ownership of this strip of land, and that was all linked into other discussions that were going on with the help of Breckland to actually understand who owned this land. Yes, we do own the land, so this is now a viable project. So this has all sort of happened around the same time, and now we can start working on it.
Thank you. Do you know what? And one of the nice things about this plot of land that we're looking at, it does have one really well established tree on the flood. And you know, it's like, yeah, we could put a nice little plaque there in memory of that Queen, or something like that. It's an idea we're talking about it, but it does lend itself particularly well, its location to the community, to where this one. This is going to be a benefit to our community, and it's something I hope all councillors get behind as we move forward. Councillor Tyler.
Yeah, I mean, we've known that long to the town council for quite a while now, actually. But it's good that projects come forward.
It's only just recently been confirmed, Councillor Tyra, despite us knowing that, we've only had it just recently.
It was in council ownership from 2015, but that's for different purposes, but
yeah,
section 106. Is there a time limit on spend?
Yeah, a year.
Well, is that, can that be spent on revenue or is it?
Both. Is my understanding.
Dave, thanks. Any other questions?
I think
Yes.
I will just raise this, just as a public one. The coronation coming up, because as I said earlier, we started off with something towards the Jubilee, then of course we lost Her Majesty in September. Now we're having the coronation, and the plan for the coronation weekend is the Monday is the big volunteer day. Now, to my mind, it would be magnificent if we could get some sort of project together by then, linked to this woodland, that could involve the community. Well, I don't know whether we can. It's tight time, but I'm just saying this is the type of thing where we can get so many community groups involved going forward with this, you know, with the different areas that potentially we could have up there, and that the coronation, you know, possibly is one, but like it is a tight time scale.
Okay, so first and foremost, because it's degree next steps and the funding options, are we as a council agreeing that the application that we have made for the S106 money represents the wishes of the council? Yeah. Okay, would anybody like to propose our support as a council policy? Councillor Redfern, Councillor Montague, and a show of hands for approval. Any opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention, Councillor Taylor. And the next part of this is, as a council, to form a working group or a subcommittee for this project, and one that I would hope involves community groups and other groups like the Woodland Trust. We haven't got the scope of that together, but I would suggest it is something that perhaps the environmental committee can work on and bring back to council for approval. Are we okay? Sorry, yes.
Sorry, I just think it'd be useful. I'm happy to go away and do some work on this. What I think would be useful for council to decide is which way do you think is appropriate to go with this in terms of a working group or a subcommittee. And for those of you that perhaps aren't sure what the difference is, a subcommittee would have terms of reference. It would be, you can have non-council members of the subcommittee, but there is some decision-making responsibility. You can hand them some delegation. With a working group, again, you can include members of the community. You can meet anywhere at any time. You don't need any kind of agendas. You don't need any kind of records, but they have no decision-making power. So everything would have to come back to council. My view personally, as clerk on such a big project, is it should be a subcommittee so that we maintain records of the discussions that are ongoing and who's involved. But that's for councillors to decide. That would be my recommendation.
You know, we could actually set up a subcommittee right now and get this thing moving forward, if that is the mindful, sorry, councillor Tyler.
Well, I was going to suggest rather than moving it to the environment committee, perhaps councillors not on the environment committee that might let down to be involved.
Yes,
in this,
that's
I
a
don't
very
think-
valid point, councillor Tyler. Thank you for that.
In terms of taking, I agree, it should be a subcommittee. Looking back at the neighbourhood plan, that didn't work as well as it could do, but for a number of reasons, but what did work is below that, you can then have different groups, voluntary groups that lead themselves, that feed into the subcommittee that then make decisions. So
Yeah.
you're not excluding the community. If you're not on the subcommittee, it doesn't mean you're not involved. You just
Yeah.
have a level below that that's organised that feeds into it.
How would you feel?
Which is what we did with neighbourhood plan and the London Road Plainfield as a great example.
Yeah.
Exactly. If it is agreeable of council, and that's your decision, to have a subcommittee in place, perhaps we can ask the clerk to put together the terms of reference for that committee to bring back to council. And then we can appoint members of the council to that from the council rather than being in the committee. So as you said, councillor Tyler, rightly so, it is open to all councillors. Yes?
Yeah.
I'm happy to propose that myself. Do you want to second that, councillor Taylor? Yeah. Okay, so it's clarified. We're asking the clerk to put together the terms of reference for approval or consideration and approval of the next council meeting as a subcommittee for council to involve community groups as well and individuals.
Is that, okay, sorry to complicate things, but is that terms of reference of the committee, or is, once the committee is set up, would they then devise the brief and scope?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, so it is the terms of reference for that committee who will then do the scope. I feel that's appropriate there, because that group should be involved in the scope. So that's the proposal. Councillor Taylor has seconded. If we could have a show of hands for approval. Thank you very much. That was unanimous. Okay, the process for voluntary groups working on council land. I know that Councillor Taylor and Councillor Bennett have made a note on this. You're very welcome to be part of the conversation, please do. Okay. So there we go. A clerk has put something together for us to consider. It had been noted that we've got a little bit of a gap on risk management as a council. And we just want to fill that gap. And one of the things during my term as mayor, I'm trying to plug as many of these things and deal with many of the outstanding issues as possible. So someone following me doesn't have to. So this is one of those things there. Any comments, questions, queries on this? Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I was just going to say, obviously, what we've got before us tonight is kind of just like it's a rough idea.
Yeah.
So what I was going to suggest is perhaps taking it to maybe the Standing Order Review Committee, where you've got a smaller collective of councillors that can put a bit of time into this, with Michelle to formulate a policy to be produced back to the council, and if appropriate as well, perhaps some of those groups that are currently or that you expect to begin working on council land, maybe invite in for a conversation.
That's solid.
So that you've got, I mean, the council's expectations and their expectations as well. So you've got something that's collaborative.
I think you're absolutely right, and I fully support what you've said there. And I think one of the things that we wanted to do is get a mandate from the council before we did this, because we know it can be seen as something that it wasn't meant to be. We just wanted to make sure we're doing it the right way. We've got a mandate from the council to do this. So Councillor Taylor's proposed that we engage with community groups that are already on or would be working with ourselves on this, and it goes to the standing order committee with this as a overriding brief for us to consider. Is that kind of, I got that in?
I feel like
You've got kind of got the gist of it. Probably could be worded in a lot less.
Although I know it was a suggestion, and obviously you've
Yes,
endorsed
yes.
it. Obviously, I will be abstaining from that.
Yeah, I know, I know, but I think it's very fair and reasonable. Thank you.
I don't know how often the standards committee meets, but that can be, I think this needs to be quite urgent to do this because, we've had incidents, where people in recent, like, we've had an incident with the lovely people from the boxing group put
Yeah.
you know, and bless their hearts, they didn't realise that they were supposed to,
Yeah.
you know, and if anything had happened to anybody, if they got injured, you know, and I just think we need to move on this so that we know that we're safeguarding members of the public, you know, who might be doing something on council-owned land. And God forgive anybody get injured, but we need to be.
So you're asking us to do this. I think a realistic timescale to put something together and engage is that we have a standing orders meeting in March.
I think we were due one soon anyway, weren't we?
I think we are. We
We
generally do
said we
before.
do them quarterly, didn't
Yeah.
we?
As chair of that
I
committee,
think December the last month.
are
Yes,
you,
it would be
Yeah,
March.
yeah, so we're due a meeting.
are you happy for that to be included as chair of that?
Okay.
All right, good.
Sorry, could I just, I mean, I totally agree with that, but I think the one thing that, I don't know, it might be, explicit, well, implicit rather than explicit, is about cooperation and coordination, because what we want to do, we want to get the benefits of volunteers and the ground staff. It's not duplicating work or, competing for work. So there's got to be something in there. I'm sure it's implicit, but it's about coordination and getting the best out. of
No, we
volunteers and
don't want to
ground
be digging
staff.
up holes or anything, but
Well,
that's so carefully, thank you very much. You know, we want to make sure we're aware of what's happening, so yeah, it's just good practice. And I appreciate, you know, the backbreaking work that Peter and others doing that, so yes. So in principle, we're going to take this to the Standing Orders Committee, who will meet in March, and they'll use this as a guide for us to establish a policy. So work cooperatively with groups, but also mitigate against risk going forward. And yes.
I'll propose that.
Yeah, Councillor Lane, anyone to second? Councillor Westby, show hands for approval. Great, thank you very much. And we obviously have Peter and Taylor abstaining from that as well. If we could note that because they have an interest. Okay. Policies, we've had some policies come back from some committees with some tweaks done to them. Any questions on, let's start on the whistleblowing policy. It was minor changes from my recollection on this and from my reading of this, but just brought it more relevant to the way we operate as a council and got the terminologies right of proper officers, etc.
May I just make a comment?
Of course.
There are places there where it refers to he stroke she. Are we now obliged to put he, she, they?
No, we are not.
Okay. I know it's
contentious. Now listen, I know it's contentious. I'm not going to open that particular can of worms tonight. Okay. All right, but yes, we're taking on board. I think we just leave it as generic terms.
Yeah, I was just going to say, rather than, I know obviously we'll probably take them one at a time, but I was actually going to say, would it be worth referring, I've just pulled them up, to the Standing Order Review Committee minutes, where we can highlight what the resolutions were. So
Chair of the committee, do you want?
No, I'm more than happy to. So, following the last Standing Order Review Committee meeting, the whistleblowing policy, it was resolved to omit CEO from any reference to CEO and town clerk and present those amendments to the town council meeting. The model planes and drones policy, it was resolved to leave alone until the next annual meeting in May, so I don't think that's in the meeting package
This is
there.
not back now.
We've got the lost and found child policy, and that was resolved to amend the title to clarify lost and found child policy for offence under guidance for keeping lost children safe. Amend any lost children must be taken to the first aid area. Amend with the control tent to control area. Amend location of and lost children, remove extra program in the events program or schedules. Present amendments to at the town council meeting. And then we've got the grants award policy, and that was resolved under the application process, amend grant money to be paid by tax and bank transfer, and under the scope of the grants, amend to £500 and add grant funding of up to £1,000 and present those amendments to the town council. And then for the standing order amendments, it was to amend standing order B29, so just the one amendment in that policy, to 10 working days from 5 working days and present to the town council meeting.
If I can ask one more amendment on the standing orders, we can change it to 2022 rather than 2021. That's, if that's okay, that's agreeable. That's a common sense approach to it. Just so we've got it, there's a relevant one on there. 23, sorry. I'm losing my mind tonight. Sorry, 23. Yes.
Can I ask on the grants and water policy, it finishes at do we have a separate policy for any grants over £500?
No.
That's why I had my hand up. Sorry, I wasn't actually at this meeting. I do have a bit of an issue with this because I think it leaves a hole. So I think there's two options. We either have this as our grant awards policy, and then we have a large grant award policy, which is different, or we need to change this one because things like, I'll give you an example of, I don't know if I should say this publicly, but there is a group that we have given to before that assists with healthcare. They'll potentially go and ask us for more money. If it's above that, what policy are we giving it to them under? There was a local group that asked us for £3,000 this year. We granted it under what policy did we grant it under? That makes me uncomfortable. So I think we either do this and do a large grant separately for over 1,000, or we need to look what we do with these slightly big grants that come in.
Can I make a suggestion, which is completely within the remit of the council to do so, is to refer that particular policy back to the standing orders. I feel it's silly having two policies, and it's effectively for grants.
Okay.
We can define it within the grant policy, but it makes it easy to reference going forward.
I think they should have gone for a larger.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I stand corrected.
Because you need different criteria.
You do need different evidence. wouldn't you?
Could it be a separate subsection of the same policy? I mean, we do so on the tendering process. We have different parts that we need for each of the amounts. Could have some sort of system there. You're probably both right. And there's no real wrong way to do it as long as we've got a good policy. Yes.
It's important to avoid going through the rigmarole of what's required for a large grant, for every grant.
Yeah.
But you know, it just easily be a subsection. You know, section A, small grants up to £1,000. Section B, large grants up £1,000 minimum.
As chair of that committee, how do you feel, Taylor?
I would be very happy for it to come back so that we could work out the criteria and what we would request for those larger grants.
Yeah.
I agree that it makes sense to keep them both in the same place. But I think just for clarity, so when people say, you know, you're wanting to apply for a grant, you're a club group organisation in the town, when you're looking on the website, do you know what I mean? You don't just go, oh, this is it. Do you know what I mean? It's very clear that it's all in one area, so there's no confusion. That they stumble across one before the other.
We have it clearly defined as different criteria.
Yeah. I think that would be perfect.
So, as far as the other ones, if you remember to put the correct year, which I can remember, and I apologise. I think the others, personally, I feel are okay to accept. I'm happy for someone to process, but I do think that the grant awards policy should be sent back to consider grants over £1,000 to be included as part of that policy. Okay, so I'll propose it, seconded by Councillor Taylor. Show of hands for approval. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Great. The Wheel Skate Park for consideration, and it's the management of gate closure and time restrictions as part of the overall conversation.
So in terms of the management of the gate closure, there is no real reason why we couldn't open the skate park now. We've had the roster report done on it. The official roster has now been sent to us, so we can sign off. The issue is that at the moment we don't have a system in place for somebody to go and open the closed gates every day, every evening. I think the long-term answer to that is going to be either to have some sort of volunteer management group for the skate park, or to look at some sort of electronic locking device. In the meantime, just before the meeting, a councillor put themselves forward to assist with locking and unlocking. But that is the issue. Obviously, we need to make sure that if we allow people to use it, that we have a method of locking it within the time constraints.
Sorry, I think Councillor Smith, you were first.
Why does the skate park require locking when no other
That's
area
part
equipment?
two. And we'll come
Perhaps
to
we can
that.
say
Yeah.
But no, you won't
Yeah.
raise
Okay.
Yeah.
What's it called? The play equipment?
the play equipment.
We don't lock those, don't we? And I'm aware there may be some sort of planning conditions from in the past. But I think it's worth a conversation.
It is a planning condition, and at the moment, what happens, which is quite silly really, is that you could lock the wheel path and prevent people from using it, and they walk 10 yards to sit on the play area. Because there's no condition on that. So I did put that on there so that we could have a conversation.
Councillor Lane, I think, was next, and then Councillor Taylor. Was all right to see you.
Yeah.
Okay, so Councillor Lane.
I was going to raise the same point to Councillor Smith, and my understanding is it's part of the original planning instead to have it locked at a certain time. But I've got a couple of issues. One is, how you maintain that, but also, as Councillor Smith said, there's nothing to stop you walking out of at 9 o'clock, whenever it is, walking out of the skate park and walking into the play area. And antisocial behaviour is antisocial behaviour, whether it's taking place in the play area, the mugger, or the skate park. So you would expect respectful behaviour in all areas. Plus, we're now going to have CCTV footage, which should
That should help deter some of it.
should overwhelming. So that's I think as Councillor Smith says, I think it would something we should talk about looking into.
Plus, we've also got a non-resonating skate park now, which is significantly quieter before, which is part of the aggravation. Yes,
Yeah, has the catering been put on?
No.
not yet. No, it hasn't. Councillor Smith.
When was the first set of planning permission for skate park sorted? And what was the rationale for opening closing park? It's predated that, so I don't know.
That was part of the planning condition, but then I think things have changed. It's now, excuse me, wasn't then termed as recreation, now it's termed as sport.
Yes.
Isn't that something to do with the differentials?
Yeah.
Because it's now been elevated to a sport, not a recreational activity.
Yeah, and also the original one was, what shall we say, a loud skate park. It was made from tin, effectively. It was mass loaded, but it was made from tin, wasn't it? I mean, no, not Deco, it's Soundtrack. But then we had a resonating thing. With echo, you would make quite a lot of noises did, and a lot of the noise was transition, going from one surface to another. You had a tarmac surface, the ramp, and they weren't perfectly joined, so there was a transition which you'd hear quickly, or the flooding noise between the two. Whereas this is a solid one piece, sort of all drafted in together, concrete, which doesn't resonate and make the sound that the previous one does. So there is some validity in this. Plus, we also have CCTV cameras coming to the system. So we have an immediate thing, which is what we need to do about the management. And then there may be a long-term option to have a look at the restrictions on it. Yes.
Can I just, what councillor Dale just said, I didn't quite get, where you said it's now sporting, is that the actual site is being?
No,
or
the
the
activity,
Right, got it, yes. So
is now classed as the sport.
The installers were very, very keen. At every opportunity we said recreation, they corrected us.
Yes.
And they give us a stern look to say, that is not what is accepted of in the country. In the country now, it is accepted. It is recognised as a sport. This is sports equipment. This is not recreation.
So from that point of view, looking into the use, we need to investigate whether it's a sporting equipment, whether we are actually allowed to lock it at certain times, you know, because.
Well, it's got to be a decision for councillors to make. I think we need a short-term solution, and then we need to explore perhaps another solution before making any more decisions. But that has to have a remit from council to do so. It's not something that we can go off and do of ourselves.
Are we under any obligation from Breckland themselves to anything in particular?
Yes, I've been in contact with the planning enforcement officer at Breckland, and he's happy that I've sent him photos that there is a gate on there and that it is lockable. So he's happy that we are meeting our requirements now.
Yes, Councillor Tyler.
I think we need to be careful in terms of, what times they're in use and whether it's sports or recreation. I get that from every point of view. But an analogy might be, if you live near a sports field that's got floodlights, you wouldn't allow floodlights for 24 hours, would you? The residents next door.
No.
So the same principle applies. If there's noise going on or disturbance, then there's some time restrictions to that. And you're quite right, there's an anomaly, kids can leave there, that then go next door and shout and what have you, but I think it's that noise of skateboards or whatever wheels they use. And yes, the design probably has diminished that sound, but the principle still applies. So yeah, it's worth the conversation, but you've got to be mindful of what the impacts are, noise impacts, lights impacts and everything else. And yes, you can't stop people congregating in an area unless it's antisocial behaviour.
Which is a different matter.
Which is a different matter altogether. It's hard to enforce. In terms of, sorry, just to finish, in terms of controlling that, it's interesting talking to my better half of, the high school have got gates around there, and kids know when those gates close, can't get over them, what have you, and they learn. So in terms of future use, in terms of enforcement of that, of securing that ground, there are, I sent an email about, is it still a building site or not? I didn't get a reply from anyone. But there are ways of doing it adequately. We have to review that. And it can be done electronically. And gates close at this time. Make sure the CCTV, there's no one in the grounds. Then gates close automatically, and that's it.
Reece and then Andy.
So if the current land we've got is assessed on the fact that it is recreation, but obviously now in today's world right now in the country it's called a sport and it's not recreation anymore, I would believe it would be a good idea to update how we assess the land, because if it's changed from recreation to sport, we really need to update it, because there might be different requirements. Because if it's a sport, it might be different requirements to be met and different things like that. So I think we should really update the assessment we have on that land from recreation to sport, and any changes that might bring with it.
Noted. I'll come back to these points in a moment. I want to wrap this up because I know we've got a lot more to discuss as well. Councillor Smith and then Councillor Lane, they will try and wrap this up if we can.
Two thoughts. Short term, can we have some form of electronic time lock on the gate? And long term, can we look at time provision, the condition usage?
Yes, to both is a simple answer.
Pretty similar again to what Councillor Smith said, and one suggestion I have is, could Shelby perhaps contact, I know North Walsham have got a relatively new skate park, and find out how they manage theirs now. Admittedly, I don't ever drive past there at 10 o'clock at night, so I don't know if it is actually, but to me it looks open, I don't know. Also, there's one in Munsley that is open 24 hours a day. And that is adjacent to residential areas. So, but maybe it's worth looking around at how other councils manage.
I think it might be wise to allow scope for us to investigate this further and report back to councillors. In the short term, we have Councillor Dale very kindly willing to do the manual system whilst we're exploring an electronic option, and we also allow scope for the clerk to look at statutory options for us going forward. Is that a summary of where we are, so we get all the options back to council? Yes.
I'm a little bit concerned about an individual councillor going out on their own.
Go out there anyway.
I know, but in terms, if you're doing it on behalf of the council,
I'll do it on my own behalf.
you know, thinking of lone working and things like that, it's potentially
The grandson with
we're condoning something who might put themselves in a situation of danger.
I have the same concerns because I obviously wondered about things like caretakers, and I didn't want to put one of my caretakers in that position. So that is a grey area. Obviously, Councillor Dale is volunteering. We're not asking her to do
No,
it, but it is a risk you want to be aware of.
You can get a lone worker system for your phone as well.
take the dog with me.
Not my word.
Okay, sorry, Councillor Tyra.
All due respect, Vera, thank you very much for your volunteering, but absolutely not. A councillor should not be doing it. End of story. There's security issues, there's insurance.
All right,
issues,
then resign for the council and do it as a volunteer.
Even as a volunteer, we should not be doing that. It should be a paid employee that's adequately covered. It's got backup measures in case anything kicks off. Not just, I'll do it because I'd like to do it. And what if you're sick? What's plan B? What's plan C? Let's think about this. Let's not do a knee-jerk reaction. It needs to be, it's an operation. It's a business operation that needs to be checked, health and safety, security, everything else. And, you know, thanks, Vera, you know, I'm trying to protect you more than anything else. But let's be professional as a council, not rely on, I'll do this, I'll do that. We're trying to be professional.
Andy, then Michelle, and then we'll try and draw this to a close if we can.
What's happened in the past before the skate park closed and then got?
Absolutely
Nothing. Nothing.
So we've had a condition that's, it's suspicious. Was it locked at night?
No, I used to go over there at night and talk to the lads about 9 o'clock and ask them to go off. So I've been doing it for a number of years, unofficially.
So previously it hasn't been locked.
No, I just used to go over 9ish, but I used to walk my dog over there and have a chat.
I'll be honest,
with them.
I haven't been over since it got completed. There used to be signage saying that it should be open. Is that signage still there?
No, because at the moment there's a sign up saying it's construction, because I'm
Yeah.
trying to discourage people from
So
going over the fence.
we operated on a voluntary system.
Yeah.
For how long? Years?
Over 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've operated on a voluntary system. Has that worked? Has that caused
The
problems?
problem is that, due to a complaint, there's now planning enforcement involved, so we have to demonstrate that we are meeting our planning requirements. That's our legal obligation. My only concern with Councillor Tyra's comment, which I completely agree with some elements of, is by saying, well, it has to be a paid employee, you can't have any volunteers actually, then that removes the option from having some sort of users group that manage the site. So I think we can't go too far the other way either.
No, I'm open for discussions. What I'm saying is, let's not make a knee-jerk reaction tonight, saying that's the answer. Either the council own it, or it's put into a voluntary group or a community asset, and then how's that managed? There's a number of models. What I'm saying is, let's have a
So what do you
proper
what do you
discussion
suggest we
about it.
do before we have that proper discussion? From tonight onwards, and the fact that people want to use the skate park, what is your suggestion in the short term that we do so that the public could use the facility until 9 o'clock at night, until such a time as we have had a discussion to decide how it's going to be managed?
Okay, well, the first question is it completed? Has it been signed out?
Yes.
It has.
Yes.
So,
Without top coating.
Yes,
So it's usable without that top coating.
apparently so.
so the contractor has signed it over, the town council has signed it off, no snagging, no nothing.
We've got the Roscoe.
Okay, I'm asking
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, the
These
Roscoe's
these
been
were the big
issued.
questions, which is why I put in the email. You know, if it was felt that some people could use it. In terms of how to enforce it, what I'd suggest is, as long as you contact the planning authority saying we are working on the enforcement issues, looking at suitable ways we can enforce that planning permission, you're fine. Ignoring the enforcement issue is the problem. So you don't need something overnight. As long as you tell them you're looking at it, and we will work with you and we'll come up with a solution in due course, then fine. But ignoring it and trying to come up with a knee-jerk reaction. Now, if you want to have an emergency meeting about it and set up different things and look at the options, I'm all for that. But I think, as you know, a councillor suggesting I'll go out when it's dark, doing it myself, and you know, kudos to you, Mira. I don't think is the way to go, and it falls a bit amateurish.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor, then Keith.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if we're having an EGM in a week's time anyway for, I think it was item 4, for the future town delivery plan.
Yeah.
Could we not have an item at that? I know it just adds to it, but where we can look at the costs associated with the lock, like electronic locking gates, or other alternatives. So actually consider what the alternatives are, what those
What's
could
coming
cost.
technical point on this? We can get a locking system, it's around about £1,000. The problem is, it has to have an emergency release within the system, just in case somebody climbs over the fence and needs to go out of there. So the emergency button has to be placed next to the gate.
Yeah.
Now, for the enforcement officer, fully comply with it and the health and safety regulations.
Yeah.
And that's where we are. Sorry, Keith, and then Michelle, sorry.
Well, two things. I was going to raise the emergency button thing, which, as you rightly say, just lean over. But when you look at the height of the fence, what we're talking about is absolute rubbish. It's, yes, we've got to comply and all the rest of it, but they're going to jump over anyway, which is exactly what they're doing now.
Yes.
They are, and planning enforcement recognise that.
Yeah, go for it.
I just wanted Councillor Taylor to realise why I laughed. It wasn't the idea of having an EGM, it was the fact that what you don't know is there'll be another EGM, so there'll be 4 meetings that night. But that's fine, because they'll all be quick, but as long as everyone might be meeting today, because I'll be putting an agenda out in the morning, about, we've had a site meeting today, about making some slight changes to Decoy Common, and I don't want to delay it because they do start on site. So as long as people don't mind having sort of 3 quick EGMs, then we can do it, but
we can only do one.
I don't want to
per
annoy
EGM.
councillors. We can only do 1 item per EGM, so that's fine, we just have 3 quick back to back.
We've been told.
1 agenda item per EGM.
Yeah. We'll close one side. But I think realistically, as Ed's rightly said, if we in communication with the enforcement officer and then we're working on a solution, it saves a necessity for you having to do it, but we can open.
As long as we can, I mean, I don't mind it, I've been there before, and it was only, and I did state while something was sorted out, I didn't say I was gonna do it forever and ever, as while something was sorted out.
So, in essence, we can have a start to this because we know people are getting on the site already. We can have a soft start. We will work on a solution which is probably an electronic one to meet the conditions, but isn't, you know, even if we had a master lock system on there, fence is what the fence is, that's what openly said. However, for planning conditions, we may have to do that, as well as look at possible alternative conditions placed on the site now that it is significantly changed. Is that kind of the gist of where we are?
Okay. May I just ask if it's possible to see if you can get in touch with the user group, because there may be a solution there as well by having the user group point of contact to understand how it is used and a point of contact for securing the site as well.
Well, we haven't got a user group yet.
Well,
There
you
is
know names.
Yeah.
Names came up at
Councillors early
meetings.
to know the names leaders, but.
So that's a consideration. I want to wrap this up. I'm mindful there's a lot of other things. I want to get home tonight.
Just very quickly on that, because at home we spoke about this weekend and people using it. Rowena Rouse offered, and when the designers came out, she went around the school and got responses from the school. One, to promote when it does open in the academy, but secondly, she said, you know, if you do want to get feedback and this, that, and the other, then the academy would still attend them.
Thank you.
So, communication with the enforcement officer. Let them know we're working on an electronic solution. We're working on, we haven't got an absolute one yet, but we're working on an electronic solution. Open communication with a potential user group, as well as explore planning restrictions and various options in the future for the council. Is that kind of the sum of where we are?
Yeah, yeah, so.
Okay.
And we'll talk about it next time, then.
Does that need to come back to me again if we're giving you authority to work on a solution for the gate?
No, that doesn't. If you're gonna resolve to let me just sort it out tonight, then no.
I think that might be as well, because in principle, we're just going to say, that's the system, you know. So are we okay to give the authority for that? It speeds the process up as well.
That we give the clerk.
And that means that we can immediately open it as a soft start to this official launch. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to propose that, Councillor Day?
Yes.
I'll second.
Second, Councillor Bonner, show of hands for approval. Any abstentions? 2 abstentions.
No, it's all right.
Okay. Next item is Christmas lights. Taylor has made a note of her interest in the lights committee, but as obviously part of the conversation here. There was quite, and I apologise for this, an extensive packet of information there. You know, when we do investigations as a council, it ends up as huge reports because we're quite thorough on these things. So this is coming to yourselves with some headline points that was put on a master report on this. I want to just first say on this, I've grasped every nettle presented before me as chair of this council, and this is a stingy subject, to say the least. But considering the amount of funds that have gone in it over the course of the time it has, it would be remiss of me to not include this as part of the root and branch review of the council operations, which I promised at the beginning of my term. I'm grateful to say it is one of the last things I hope to sort out, leaving the council in a far better position to go forward. But it is one nonetheless that is in need of scrutiny, if nothing more. Yes.
Again, before we start the debate, and, I do think it does need to be discussed, there's no doubt about it, but can we just be clear? Is this a review of whether the council continues to fund the lighting committee, which is a separate entity, or a review of the lighting committee itself, which is totally separate and independent? What is the purpose of this?
The purpose of this is only and solely to do with the council operations. We are not here in any way, shape or form to make comments on the lighting committee itself per se. That is a separate committee. That's outside of our remit. This is purely a review of the council operations in relation to the lighting committee, and we should be professional enough to keep it to that. Does that help?
Yeah, I just want to be clarified,
Yeah,
so all
absolutely.
councillors know it's not one thing or the other. So
No.
it's what the council controls and what it gives.
It's
Yeah.
what we have,
Yeah.
and because of the sums involved, rightfully, and we promised last year a proper review of this. We didn't get it done in time because of the extensive work necessary before the last season. We'd hoped to, but we didn't get it done in time, but we are ready now, and it's an appropriate time to have this discussion. Okay? Having read the report, if you'd read all of the report, 51 pages of documents, but the headline, the 3 pages at least, I hope you've read, kind of summarises the points made. Councillor Ty.
So just a question, within the report, and it is quite a hefty document. I've seen the report like before, but when it says we don't believe, and I'm paraphrasing here, so forgive me, but we don't believe it's value for money or money best spent of the council. What measure is that against? I can't remember what page it's on, but it clearly states we don't believe the money, was it 230,000 over 20 years, has been valued for money. And I'm wondering, one, how can you say that, and what measure of you
Just to clarify the line on this, page 3, at the conclusion it says, ownership of the lights needs to be established. That has been established and we've brought back up that funds. Investment of over £340,000 over 20 years with no capital assets to show for it. It says, to show is, could be argued, not a good use of public funds. And it could be argued.
against what measure?
That amount of money being spent by the council for something like this comparatively to other areas. I know that we are quite hefty on our lights, it's a big thing that we do. And it says the grant award process of 80s of the town council needs reviewing, which we're now going to do, so that's taken care of. And then one possible option could be, and there's an option on the table about alternatives, which is something that we need to consider as a council. So if we just tackle each of these 4 points, I think that's a good place to start. The ownership of the lights needs to be established. We've made inquiries with the lights committee or group, and they have confirmed to us that we don't own the lights. It is owned by the committee. Correct me if I'm wrong,
yeah,
because I don't want to.
what the light committee say is lights, looms and all material possessions pertaining to the lights are solely owned by the Christmas.
Okay. Councillor Smith.
I'm just wondering what that £340,000 is purchased for us. If it hasn't purchased anything.
Well, before we delve,
Rent it, so like.
before we dive into this, and you know what? We're not here to be critical of previous council decisions. What we're trying to do is, in a moment when we've got a cost of living crisis, when we have, significant burdens placed on the taxpayers, we need to ensure that we now going forward operate in good value and good faith with our community as well. And that may mean something different to you than it does me, but I think we need a consensus on this as a council. But yes, the £340,000 could be construed by someone in the public as perhaps not the best use of public funds. I don't think that's an argument that you could rationally dismiss. The next point about the grant award process, that's going to the committee, and really the option is, what do we want to do in the end? That last question, what is it we want to do with council? Yes.
But just to be really transparent, there is another piece of information in this email which I haven't circulated. I don't think I circulated to all councillors. So to make sure I'm reflecting everybody in a very fair light, I contacted the Christmas Light Committee because I felt it was only fair to make them aware that this was going to be on the agenda. And obviously one of the questions I wanted to do was clarify the owner of the lights. When the Christmas Light Committee came back to me and clarified that, they also said that they would be in a position to return some money to us this year. And they have since come back and said that they will be returning £4,000 to the town council. So I think everybody needs to be aware of that as well. We haven't received that yet to my knowledge, but it has been promised by the Lights Committee. So I think that's important to say.
So just a point of clarification as well. I mean, we're talking 320,000, whatever the figure is, which is a big number. It probably scares a lot of people.
Yes.
Over 20 years, that's £16,000 a year.
It's still a lot of money.
But it's back to what do we measure that against in terms of the benefit of the town, publicity, the football, the impact on the economy and everything else. So when you say we may interpret it as not being good value of the money, what is that measure? I think that's up for
Absolutely.
discussion.
And one of the measures that was used in this that would help us do that is we explored options. If we were to do it ourselves as a town council, and that is procure the lights and do other things, what would the value be in doing so? So there's a measure of the funding, because we are the only town council in the area that don't do it ourselves.
Why would you break something? Why would you try and do something that's not broken? Why would the town, and this is a personal question to this, is the town council reviewing how much £16,000 on average, let's say, per year? A lot of money, don't get me wrong, but everyone loves it. And, you know, you could argue cost of living, but people come out, kids love it when there's hardship, different measures. Why would a town council even consider wanting to take this over? Has it done a cost benefit analysis? Has it looked at, well, all those assets that are owned by the lighting committee get thrown in the bin? Would you buy them? How much does that cost? How much would the installation be, etc. So it comes back to the principle, is the council looking at, is it using the money, the £16,000 as best as it can? And we've got questions about the lighting committee that we'd like you to explain because we're a bit unsure, which is fair enough. No, let's sit around the table. Or is it the town council wants to take over the lighting committee?
I would say the review shows that when it comes to grants and how we issue grants, that there have been holes. There have been holes that should have been properly filled and never been. And it's about time those holes.
And I totally agree.
That's the bottom line. And then we can discuss, well, which way do we go? I think the most disappointing thing for me is the fact that these holes have been, and this is what the review shows, those holes are there. We've got to make sure that there's nothing.
And I totally agree. I think it's back to, well, it's the first step, you know, the council put the money in, got some concerns about that in terms of setup and what have you. And it might be the lighting committee and other committees said, well, yes, we do good volunteers, we don't get anything right. And our supporting groups, which is what the town council is about, is sit down and say, can we fill those gaps? That's the first stage. And does that satisfy the concerns of, if you ask for money, we're happy with that. If not, you don't get any money in future. Then you can look at other options as well. I'm just trying to smooth things through one step at a time rather than getting a sledgehammer to something, because it's quite emotive. this.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first stage, we've got to do it.
I think it's like get together, what's the problems, both sides, can we resolve these, are we happy? I think personally £16,000 for what the town puts on is absolutely amazing value for money. Also, it brings in own sponsorship. If the town council decides to take it over, I'll guarantee quite a lot of that sponsorship will disappear because it'll say, well, it's town council.
That's kind of seen as a positive,
you know,
by some, because, you know, part of the conversation there at least was made, as we were putting this together, was that it is an onus on sponsorship of businesses and community, where there may be a more cost-effective way to move this forward, without the need to rely on the goodwill of those within the community who are struggling in this time as well. So that's kind of, not necessarily, and the facts shown here that it's not necessarily needed to. Councillor Lane.
I think there's two separate things going on here. There's one is the ownership of the lights. Within the report, there are copies of invoices, and there was this strange situation where Attleborough Town Council were paying invoices for the Christmas Light Committee, and some of the invoices included in the report show that Attleborough Town Council were paying for lights, equipment, light bulbs. So they've actually paid for these things, but apparently they don't own them. So that, I think, needs clarifying. I don't quite understand how you can pay an invoice for something, but you don't actually own that. I don't understand that. So I think that's one thing. But the other thing is looking at moving forward, and being transparent with the community's money and doing the best for the town in competition to a degree with all the towns around us. You know, all want to, I think like Peterbilt's doing amazing light display now. Is working with the community, possibly having a light committee which has members of the community as part of that committee working with the town council. I think that's a possibility that way, you know, we're looking after the community's money the best way. And some of these examples that were attached to under lights, you can see the costing of them, and yeah, that's just my thought.
So, Councillor Smith and then Councillor Dusk.
Ed said, why break something that's, sorry, why change something that's not broken? I think it is broken. I think we've got a situation where each year the council is asked for money. Now, I recall being told at some point last year, if the council doesn't provide funding, the lights won't carry on. The council provides funding. I know that we sought indication of what our funding is going to go on, and we received some information on that. But we've got a situation where each year the council puts funding in, the lights go up. However, we're effectively renting a light display for a lot of money, and it's only a minor thing yet. But you keep saying 16,000, it's 340,000, so it's 17,000 a year on average. Not 16. You know, it's fine.
My mental maths through in my head.
And it, where do we stop? You know, do we do another 20 years and throw another 340,000 at it? When do we stop and go, the money could be better spent than us just handing the money over every year for no material going, other than a few weeks of some lights?
It's a valid comment also. I think they're all valid comments. They're different parts of the spectrum, but I think we need to have a bit of, you know, mutual understanding where we're all coming from on this. Councillor Dusk and then Taylor. I'm mindful that you've said a lot, so try and give us a chance.
No, one of the things which one thing that really puzzled me is we have a group of people who act as if they're a private company, and that they therefore ask for money from the council, and they say, right, thank you for that money. As a company, I don't know quite what kind of company it would be,
but as a company, we therefore are entitled to spend it as we please. Well, not totally as we please, but sometimes there's a profit, sometimes there's a loss. But as an individual, independent group, we therefore will act as an independent group. And therefore, thank you, council, for all the light bulbs and so on. But they're ours. Thank you for that gift of money to do it. But it's not yours, it's ours. There's something strange about this when we spend so much time and effort looking at how is that £1,000 going to be spent? How is that 500 going to be spent? Making decisions. And here we have this independent group who are allowed to, there's no investigation, there is nothing. And this has gone on for years. Something's wrong.
Which is why we're trying to resolve it. I think we need to be careful, though, that we, as we said at the beginning, this is about us as a council doing our best practice, rather than making too many comments about the lighting group and committee who are for a long time providing lights for the community. The scrutiny is now, and it's needed now. So let's have a look at it and see how we move it forward. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, just a couple of points, because I do want to stay out of this debate as much as I can, because I just think that would probably be, the best way forward. But the first point that I just would like to make is that whatever the council decides this evening, there is always going to be overheads in this that you do not get a material asset for, because the put up costs, the takedown costs, the costs for, the testing of the lights, because they all have to be tested before they're put up, any emergency call outs while the lights are up, the crane hire, the cherry picker hire, all of those things, insurance, all of those things are things that you will not get a material asset for, which do cost thousands combined. That is thousands of costs. So over the course of the next 20, however many years, you would still be looking at a significant sum of money with no material value. It is money that is essentially going down the pan either way, no matter who is in possession of some lights. So that was just one thing that I did want to just put on the table for everyone's consideration. And the other thing, because I know obviously Councillor Smith has corrected Councillor Tyra, so I did just punch some numbers myself, and actually the cost was over 22 years, not 20 years, that's only 15,000.
Maths lessons. Yeah, no, that's fine, Thank you for that. Yes.
What I'd like to, I totally agree with Councillor Smith and all the other comments. We do need to look at it. There is public money going into this. I will personally say £15,000 a year is fantastic value for money for this town and what it brings to the public. And every year it's on the news and what have you. Asper's got the best Christmas lights in the world and the retailers love it. That's our bit of trying to promote the town and football and everything else. Yes, we do need to look at the process. Is it working as well as it could do with the lighting committee? And I'm sure the lighting committee will be quite open to say, okay, where are we failing? What holes have we got? What are you not happy about? And I think that's the first stage. And that can be resolved and come back and say the concerns of the council are ABCDF, they've been addressed or they can't be addressed. Then we look at other things. What alarmed me in this was straight away of there are some issues. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying there aren't. There are. And we recognise that. And I think the lighting committee might recognise that as well. And other committees, some of Carnival and everything else, they probably don't do things perfectly. No groups that are voluntary based do things perfectly. Town council as members, we don't do it perfectly because we're all volunteers. So that's the principle. So I would suggest going forward on this is invite the lighting committee in, have a meeting, say, these are our concerns as a town council. We are putting public money in. We want to ensure it's being spent correctly. We can't measure the benefits of that money unless you want to do football every year or look at retail basics. It's a leap of faith of we think it's the right thing to do. And that's what we decided to do last year. So I suggest we bring them in, go through all the issues, review what that looks like, and then come back to the council. If there are still concerns members have got, then you can look at other options. Otherwise, we're going to, I can't see it being resolved. It's going to get a lot messy, but let's do it step by step, not closing out.
This is the starting blocks on resolution, shall we say, resolving issues. Reece and then Debbie.
So I haven't read the whole document in depth, but I just want to confirm one thing. So we have options for alternative options. One of them doing it ourselves. So am I right to believe that if we did it ourselves, it would be cheaper and less money than if we gave the amount of money to the Life Committee?
Taylor's right in what she's saying. There's a lot of other costs like crane hire, emergency call out, electrical checking and stuff like this. The very best estimates that we've got at the moment is if we were to do the lighting ourselves, the first year cost would be comparable to what we're paying for the lighting at the moment. It's in the order of £16,000 this year. Acknowledge we've been offered £4,000 back. It would be in that sort of order to do the procurement lights and for several £1,000s of additional costs. We're paying for the electric anyway, so that's not part of the consideration. Ongoing costs year on year, with minor additions, storage and etc., would reduce that cost by a significant amount because you rely on already existing lighting systems.
Do you have a more or less amount?
It's about half
the amount of money.
Yeah, it's at around about half. We're talking in the region of around about £6,000 to £8,000 in costs.
How many years to do it that way before it's cheaper to do it that way than to do it the way we do it? 2 years. So from 2 years onwards, the council are spending less money.
Well,
and this is approximate, and
you've got to put a warning on this because that can mean thoroughly.
Of course,
just rough figures, I know.
No, it's not.
That's allowing for known and unknown costs. The best guesses that we have available to us.
So I understand. I just want to say that. So I've got that the figures that the first year obviously will cost more because we're going to be getting our own products. But then after that, we're going to be looking at a severe, I believe, severe difference in the amount of money that we're going to be giving out. I personally, from what Councillor Tyra said, that believing that 15,000 paying out to the lights committee, when you compare it to the fact that once we get past the first year of having it ourselves, that could, it's a probability, it's not definite, could most probably drop by half. If we compare that as a council, surely that amount of money is a severe amount of money that we could use on something else, especially in the time when money's tight for everyone. So if we are considering by just £1,500 and nitpicking at everything we do with any other community or group or anything, making sure it, you know, even the pound is worth spent, surely we should be doing that for the Christmas lights. And even
It's
when
a valid point, Reece.
I believe Michelle's mentioned before,
it's an emotive topic.
and I believe Michelle mentioned
sit on
before.
the fence in the middle.
Sorry for interrupting, but I believe Michelle mentioned that every single.
Sorry,
Debbie. So
Councillor Lang wants to say something in Councillor Smith.
that every single other council has their own lights, and we're the only ones in the area that doesn't. I mean, are the other councillors, coping well with the lights? Because if we're the only one that doesn't, and for them it works well, surely we should learn from other councils to do a good job as well. Or are we the one that's the only ones doing it right, and the rest of the area in Norfolk is doing it wrong? Which way is it? Are we doing it right and everyone else doing it wrong?
Objective answer, I'd like to say. I'm gonna park that there, Reece, because I'm trying to stay neutral on this as best I can. All right, councillor Lane.
I'm going to propose that we form a Christmas light committee and invite the current Christmas light committee members to come on board as part of it, and we work together with them. That's my proposal, that we work with them, but that the committee is led by the town council.
That would increase transparency and accountability. See the value in that. Councillor Smith.
It was just a query really. When you've given us some very, very rough figures, it's fine, I know they're very, very wrong.
I can be more precise if you want me to.
No, but if you're saying from year 2 onwards, the cost will be about half what we submit now.
Yeah.
Where's our money going?
Pretend I didn't hear that. I think we need to be careful here because then, you know, as a professional who deals with electrical contractors on a regular basis and understanding this and getting indicative figures and opinions on this matter as part of the thorough investigation I wanted to be aware of on this myself, I am not speaking from a very dark position, but quite an enlightened one. And so when I'm giving you these figures, it isn't randomly plucked out of the air. There are some unknowns. Emergency call-out costs will be in addition to this, but the type of lighting that is presented should minimise that because the professionalism of the contract lighting that's been studied in consultation with people who do this on a national scale. So there's a lot in there. Councillor Buskin, and we'll try and wrap this up because there is a proposal.
And just a small point, have we resolved yet who owns the assets?
Yes, the Christmas Light Committee own the assets.
Oh.
Yes, that has been confirmed. Councillor Tyler.
Can I make an amendment to Councillor Lane's suggestion?
You're entitled to do so.
The reason I say this is it's slippery slope. On the one hand, we're encouraging communities to take over things and do stuff. You know. In this one, we're saying we've got one that's been very successful. And answering your question, Attleborough have got the best lights in Northern, the others don't. And you can ask them why not, because they don't put money in. So there's two things. From a slippery it's subjective. Yes, it's subjective. I'm giving you my personal point of view. What I would suggest is the lighting committee are brought in to the town council and go through all your issues, but not with the town council then taking the lead over it, which is what the suggestion was. That's a slippery slope because you could argue if you're not happy with other community groups that we may be contributing to, and if we don't like it, we're going to come in, I'm going to take you over because we can do it better. And that thing will get bigger and bigger. And I understand you're an expert in these fields, Bill, but I don't believe those figures. One, you've got to buy all those bulbs. Secondly, you've got to install them and everything else. And to do it £6,000 a year, maybe, I don't know. But I think the first stage is bringing them in. We're supposed to be working with community groups, not threatening them. And yes, if we've got, as you just said, you're going to take them over.
No,
that's what you said.
bring them in.
Bring them in, and working with the town council, and we believe that's you said those things. Or words too similar.
Hold on, guys. Let's keep this simple.
So I think the best thing is bring them in, go through all the issues, and then bring it back to the town council. I'm still happy on one, and then got the other options.
You've made a note on that, and we'll come back to that in a moment. Councillor McKinnon, giving everyone a fair chance at this. I know it's one of those subjects. Yeah.
Absolutely cooperation, but I do object to the word threatened. Nobody has threatened anybody, and I do not want that word associated to me personally or anybody on this committee. There have been no threats.
Noted. This isn't threat.
I know, and you're right. It's going to get emotive because we've always done it one way.
Yeah.
All we've asked here is to look at the best use of council funds. Nobody's saying it's got to be this, it's got to be that. It's the best use of council funds, which is all that we are responsible for. And this is what we're looking at.
Fair point. Dominic, can I say very quickly, looking at the cost, if it is 15,000 a year for the last 22 years, then we're looking at just over £1 per year per person in Ashborough. If we're looking at around 12,000 people who live here, so that is exceptionally good value for money.
Just one thing. What the principle of having a clear understanding of what the money is buying is paramount, I think. So when it comes to future grant aid of anything of any sort, I think it further underlines the need to have a grant application for larger sums, so that we can in the future know where that money is coming from. We put the criteria together to know what we're getting for our money. I think that's the most important thing to come out of this. After reading that report, I thought, wow, we need to be clear in our criteria of what we are expecting money to do.
That is being taken care of at the Standing Orders Committee, which Glad's reports on. I know that there are competing motions here. There may be a compromise position where the council set up a lighting review committee, Christmas lighting review committee, to explore options with the Christmas lights committee going forward and report back to council to see if there is a way of greater cooperation and greater transparency to give us even better value for the money for the community. That may be a compromise position. There's an option there.
So, sorry, Taylor, you were about to jump in there, did you?
Yeah, because the middle ground that you've just suggested actually already exists. Last year, beginning of last year, a motion was carried to set up a committee for the review of the Christmas lights. However, they've never been given a terms of reference and they've never met. So.
Sorry, yeah, we
That-
have kind of investigated this and produced a report ready for that committee, but the committee hasn't been set up, you're right to say.
So that's kind of what you've just suggested is the middle ground.
Councillor Busk.
Just one point, we actually seem to be moving towards different options. In fact, I'm wondering whether one option we need to look at and perhaps legally need to look at with such a large amount of money is putting it out to tender to specialists in this area.
A procurement process. So yes, we should. But that opens up another can of worms in itself, and perhaps the grant process needs to clarify that. I know this is a really, really thorny, difficult subject for us to tackle as a council, but I'm loath if I'm going to leave it to someone else to tackle it one turn. I do not want this, Pandora's box left unopened, for someone else to pick up on. So, let's summarize this. I'm going to get an indicative vote, if you don't mind, because we have two options here. One is we do have, which is like Debbie said, a committee that can review this with the Christmas Light Committee. I know there's too many committees in this, isn't there? A council committee to review the Christmas lights with the Christmas Light Committee, and that motion has already been, subsequently passed, but in principle renewed. So that's one competing option here, that we review this. The other alternative is we liaise with the Christmas Lights Committee, as I believe Councillor Tyler was saying, as we find a solution to go forward. So for the first motion, if I could get an indicative vote of who would be in favour of that motion, that is, that that committee is stated with terms of reference and able and empowered to review and make suggestions on how this moves forward. Who would go with that?
Is that working together then?
It's cooperatively, yes, but it is the lighting committee who are given the scope, the mandate to work with the lighting committee to come back with a solution or present solutions to the council. Okay, so the second option was that we set up, was that a group?
Well,
who liaise with the Christmas lights? We meet.
The council have got concerns. We all agree that.
Yeah.
And I think working collaboratively with all community groups, first thing to do is bring them in and say, here's our concerns, can we have a discussion and work through those? And whatever the findings are, come back to them.
So it's to seek a
It's
meeting
more
with the council
informal.
and the Christmas light committee to, its informal version.
But then again, as Councillor Taylor said, you know, there was a resolution to set something similar up.
It was over 6 months ago, so this can supersede that. So we would be in favour of the more informal approach of the council meeting with the Christmas light committee. Okay. I'm going to have to put it to a vote because it is a mixed bag here. All right. So, yes.
Before you go to the vote, because this has been what Councillor Lane said and we reworded a couple of times, can I just absolutely make sure before you go to a vote that I know what these motions are?
From my understanding is that the Christmas light committee be set up with a mandate to liaise with and communicate with the Christmas light committee.
So a council Christmas light
light
that does not exist at all at the moment.
No, so the Christmas light committee.
By default, means
Be set up as right to liaise with.
To liaise with the Christmas light committee and come up with solutions. to the
Or work
concerns.
with,
Sorry.
work with.
Yeah.
Before we go to the vote, let's double check. The Christmas Lights Committee were aware of this tonight. Were they invited to contribute to?
I told them that we would be holding it, and that we also gave Councillor Ellis the dispensation to be able to speak on the subject, where you normally have to leave the room. But obviously, as you've all seen, he's not well tonight, so he hasn't come. But yes, there was a dispensation for Councillor Ellis to speak on behalf of the Christmas Lights Committee. Yeah, before we go to a vote, can I ask that the vote's recorded?
Yeah, of course, as well, within your rights to do so. And is that okay?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I've got that.
Right.
Sorry, can you just repeat the
So
council
I'll put it
Christmas
as
light and
a
Christmas light
council,
committee?
yeah, so a council Christmas light committee would be set up to work with the Christmas lights. It's Christmas lights committee twice. With the option, with the idea of seeking solutions going forward. Is that right?
To address the council's concerns.
Oh, to address.
Should we call out the council for elimination?
I think that's
committee.
Do I understand then that we've rejected the principle that this new group, this new committee, internal group committee, should not look at any other options, such as those companies who specialise in this?
I think that this committee would be given the remit.
Remit.
To
Yes,
explore those options. Yeah, because it has to come up with solutions to the issues that we have.
Yes, indeed.
So that's what would happen. What we don't want to do is tie the hands specifically while they're exploring options, because an amicable solution might be found as well.
So that's made clear in the what is written
Then
down.
we try not to make it too specific, so they've got
No,
more
but yes,
license
but
to do
it's
it.
not just the committee, it's also looking at what options for a cost-effective solution.
Okay, well, I'm going to wait until Vera's back because I know Vera wants to vote on this. I hope she might abstain after saying that. But the alternative by Councillor Tyrant.
Yeah.
So the first is Councillor Lane proposal. And the second proposal is that we set up an informal meeting with the council and Christmas Light Committee seeking clarity and solutions.
The council's concerns of the money it donates.
Yes.
Can we just check, is it voting for one or is it voting for and against? How does it work?
Two competing motions on the same one, it is one vote.
Sorry, just to clarify, rather than saying a meeting, there might have to be a number of meetings.
Meetings.
Set up
They say
Meetings.
you've got one meeting.
meetings. Shall I
Yeah,
put them-
meetings, let's move in this. Thank you for the clarity on that. Yeah, otherwise we're in trouble, aren't we? Okay. Well, thank you for that. Are we all happy with those motions? As I said, a motive subject, we need to make sure we're right on this, but I'm trying to facilitate everyone's point of view on this. So we'll wait for councillor Vera to come back. Attention. I think there's two
We've
different.
voted on it.
Pardon?
Someone voted.
Yeah, I don't want to click around the ear. So, we'll just wait. I think it's fair. And as we've asked for a recorded vote on this as well, I think it's fair that we have here in the room with us as well. What I will say is there anyone who willing to second Councillor Lane's motion? Councillor Smith? And anyone willing to second Councillor Tyrus? Councillor De Sosa? She's making us wait. All ladies make us wait. It's the way to do it. We sit patiently.
Man's place is to hold that back.
I am mindful of the length of it. There's a lot in this agenda, but there has been a lot of council we need to sit and sort out. So,
Can we just proceed to the vote? Because.
oh, sorry.
I think she's gone again.
The day is coming now. We want to vote with you here. The first motion, if you could, is from Councillor Lane. And it is a more formal approach if you want to read it out to us.
The first motion is for a council Christmas light committee to be set up to work with the existing Christmas lights committee to address the council's concerns and to explore options.
It has been seconded by Councillor Smith. Those in favour, a show of hands, please.
Can I just ask you not to rush while we get?
Yeah, let's get this done. That's Councillor Busk, Councillor Montague, Councillor McKinnon, Councillor Smith, Councillor Lane and Councillor Westby. Please don't make it the chairman's decision.
It makes it easier.
So please, I should have said that. You know what, you vote on your conscience now, and it is my role to do what I. No, and on the second motion, which reads,
to set up informal council meetings with the Christmas Light Committee to raise concerns of council money being spent.
Raise and address.
Raise and address. Thank you for that, raise and address. Okay. And on that
And find
motion,
solutions too. Sorry. Just to-
as we voted on it, you're very welcome to do so, and the more clarity we can have on this, better. And the show of hands for approval for that motion. Okay, any abstentions? We know Councillor Taylor and Councillor Dale, and I too have abstained on this, wanted to remain partial as chair because there was two competing votes. Okay, thank you very much, Sharon. I think we're all trying to get to the same point on that, and I hope that we can either way on this. Yes. Sure.
So that leads me to the question of what point does this, at what point does this get formed and then get allocated?
Okay, I think what we need is, terms of reference for that committee. If you could put together terms of reference as Clark, and if we can bring that back to the next most convenient meeting for approval and appointment. Okay,
So Debbie's.
Debbie's with carrot, yes, Debbie's with carrot. 6 for 4. Okay, next item of business, council reports. I apologise to members of the public, this has been the longest meeting that we've had for some time.
Ever.
We don't do this. I like short meetings, I like to go home. So I do apologise. Council reports, if you have them, I appreciate them being given briefly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I just say that, councillor, Keith Martin had asked that we give his apologies tonight.
Can we minute that, please, because he is so faithful in doing so. Yes. If there's no other council reports, thank you. Item 17, Taylor's expression of interest. I want to say on this that this is purely about the positive nature of which projects can be moved forward. I'm hoping she's going to say something about Jubilee Woodland, but there we go.
No, I
Oh.
wasn't, sorry. Michelle, do you want to give the update that we received today? Or would you
Councillors are aware of the update.
That went to
And
all councillors.
all councillors are aware of the update. I think the main thing that with what the concern is wanting some sort of clarity so we can report back to the community. But something that was in the public domain, the settlement agreement, where these funds were promised at some point, that we could report back a positive news story on how they might be used.
Well, I am currently waiting on confirmation of the landowner for one. So I'm just waiting to hear who the landowner is, because I've identified a project and costed it and everything.
Yeah.
I just need that confirmation. And then it will be obtaining the license for the land if possible.
Okay.
The second is that I'm currently trying to obtain a venue for the second one. And the third one I'll be able to announce next month at next month's full council meeting.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that one will be fulfilled and delivered by.
Did you want to do that as part of the agenda item or as council report?
I'm happy just to give it in councillors' reports. I don't think I need a special item to.
Okay.
So I can give it during councillors' reports, but I'm hoping at least one will be completed by next month's full council meeting.
I think it's important for our own scrutiny as a council that we address these sort of things so that we can make sure that everything is transparent and above board and that we're handling it the right way. So thank you, Councillor Taylor, for that. We look forward to that announcement next month. Fingers crossed. Okay, unless anybody else? No? Okay. On to item 18, decoy common bonfires. Another hot potato. Yes, please.
Decoy common bonfires, to be honest, I just don't want to do them. We had another complaint this week, and I think the person that complained to me also complained to Councillor Taylor. We don't have a licence to burn, but we have a D7 exemption that allows us to burn the natural waste there. The guys are really good at making sure there isn't any wildlife. They're very good at sort of piling it up and then doing a very small fire next to it. But it raises concerns. We've had the fire brigade called out, even though they've been advised there's going to be a fire. We've had people calling the office. Now, there's no way to do it that isn't going to incur a cost. But I think the guys also don't want to do it anymore. They're saying the amount of time they have to stand there supervising a fire, the amount of hassle it causes in terms of the public worrying that there's something untoward going on. It's going to cost us a lot of money in equipment like chippers. So a chipper, for example, The stuff that they've got to burn at the moment, we're gonna check, because we've already made a decision operationally, we just don't wanna go here. Just to give you an idea, the chipper is £400 a week. So it's not a long-term option, so I want to bring this to you, because from an operational perspective, I just don't want to do it. I don't want my guys doing it. It's happened historically for a long time, and therefore it's just carried on. Environmental and health haven't got an issue with us doing it, because we do have this D7 exemption. But I just don't think it's worth it at all. So I think we move to other ways of disposal. But we might need to have a longer term conversation about how we manage that, whether we purchase a chipper, which we probably only use for about 5 months a year, or whether we continue to hire, or whether there's another way. So that was my view.
Yeah, I actually just want to thank you for that, Michelle, and fully endorse everything that you've said. I think that chipping is a far better option than burning. If a chipper is only used for maybe 5 months of the year, maybe we'll just, it will last longer, because if something's used a lot, it wears out. But, if it's only used for 5 months of the year, hopefully it might last a very long time. So I would fully support, getting quotes to purchase a chipper of our own for long-term use.
I'll second that.
So we'll come back to that, because I'm mindful of the council wants to speak as well.
So yeah, I agree with the principle. How often do you burn? How much?
They don't burn very often.
So
It depends. It's like now, for example, they've got a pole, because it depends purely on the hedge cutting. So it's winter work. It's all about all the flailing, all the cutting back of hedges, and then through the summer they don't do it.
So I'm just thinking, if you look at it over a 12 months period of actually just leasing one
Yeah.
for a day, getting the chips and perhaps passing it on to community groups, and a lot of people and what have you are recycling those chip material. When you look at it over a 12 months timescale, it might not cost that much. If it's a day lease,
It's
chip-
not, it's a week. You lease it per week. There's no way they could just
Okay,
use it
well,
for a
this is
day.
what I'm asking, what
Yeah.
volume is. But it might be worth just do a quick analysis and what the environmental benefits are and everything else, and pass it on to community groups.
We're talking environment so much.
No, I was going to say in principle, yes, brilliant. But I think really, as far as what the options are, I think that should be up to the clerk to look at.
Can we just say, as a council, we don't want to set fires, open fires. And we give license for the clerk to explore options, whatever they be, for her to come back to council with a selection of options that we can decide on later.
The only thing I'm slightly mindful of, because I'm not as green as I was this time last year, is we did a lot of really good work this year that wasn't budgeted. And we just need to be mindful of that, because we haven't budgeted for a chipper, so I can buy a chipper, but we need to be aware that I might have to put that one somewhere else at some point throughout the year. There are some reserves, but they go. So, it's just being mindful that we can do it. It's not a budgeted cost, but I think we either pay to hire at £400 a week, or we buy one. It's as simple as that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Any idea what the cost of one is?
I think for the type that we hire in, I'm plucking this figure in at the end. I think it's about 5,000.
It is about 5,000.
Yeah.
I was pricing them up for our works the other day.
I've just brought some up, but then commercials, but they're not under 5,000, so I just want those.
All right, okay.
Okay, so should we make that a formal proposal to give license for this then? So we want to cease doing open fires or bonfires on council-owned property for the disposal of waste. And we give the clerk license to explore options, alternative options for us. Propose, second, show hands for approval. Great. Yeah, correspondence. Burning green waste, item 1, done. Okay. Sorry, we'll respond with the information that we've decided on. I think that's a fair comment. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Unless anybody else is saying anything. No. Rosecroft School parking, we've already raised as a concern of part of planning, and I think we just need to raise that with highways again.
Yeah.
I believe the school have opened the drop-off zone,
Yeah.
which has considerably helped, but people who want to go and physically pick up their children are still parking in the area. And this probably needs to continue with us pressing that one.
Actually, I think it was last month I brought this up about a resident asking if the traffic warden can go down there. It was agreed at the council meeting. Was anything taken forward, please?
Traffic warden.
Yeah, to go and, because the police won't do it.
Oh, sorry, I'm thinking lollipop man. I
No.
apologise.
And you might use it.
I apologise that, yeah, so the traffic warden is from West Norfolk. We only get them a couple of days a week.
Yeah,
They're saying that's not their jurisdiction, and the police are saying it's not their jurisdiction.
yeah, I know the police are.
So I don't know where we go
They
with
told me to
that.
get the traffic warden. So if I go back to the police and say the traffic warden told me to get you,
Yeah,
right?
this is what it's gonna be,
Sorry,
isn't it?
councillor Smith.
I
Sorry.
think the deal with posted legal parking, i.e. double yellows or.
Yeah.
a ticket.
It won't deal with
This
people
isn't,
parking on a
this
bird.
is obstruction.
Where they're parking on double yellows, now
Shouldn't
new
deal with that.
road,
We should be able to deal with that.
and right on corners where it's dangerous on the
I
end.
think I'm getting, sorry, I think I'm getting the Rosecroft issue confused with New Road, so let me go back and look at it.
Yeah, it is a connection because parents.
Yeah, let me go back and double check.
Please.
I've not got that muddled.
We will,
Thank you.
we'll report that. and
Thank you.
See what, anything we do. 19C, correspondence from George Freeman.
Yeah.
You've probably read through this, I agree with most of the points here. We do have some healthcare concerns on it. There's some questions on Collins Hall. And I know that we've got a committee member on the Collins Hall there. Would you be so kind as to help respond on some of the questions they have on the Collins Hall hire to the clerk? Once you've got approval from the committee member, so we can reply with correct information for that correspondence. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing on the Lighthouse Hall, yes, we can, they said that we're loss of an area. We can also pick up the point that the lighthouse is now a new community area that we have as well. So Councillor Taylor provided the information requested on the use of Collins Hall on this, and then also informing that we have some new areas.
I'll speak to, the lighthouse.
And making sure they're happy about that, then we can point them in direction on two ones.
Yeah.
Is everyone happy with that approach? Yeah. That's as much as we can answer on that. Public participation. Nigel.
Can you confirm if the CCTV will be in place when the skateboard park is open?
I would hope so.
When you open the skateboard park?
Well, we haven't set a date because we haven't got the CCTV. CCTV is imminent. The CCTV is going to be, we are literally chasing it today.
Okay, so until that's in place, it will remain closed?
Well, actually, that's not a plan, that we've been told by planning enforcement that isn't a legal
Fine,
obligation, but we do plan to do it.
yeah, that's fine. And how do you intend to stick to the planning enforcement regarding the opening hours until you have your electronic gate in place?
We've already discussed that.
So what are you going to do? Because I've got loads of notes of what you're going to do.
We're going to seek electronic gates, and we're letting the enforcement officer know our intention to do so.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments from the public?
The skate park,
Yes.
people are gonna jump the fence.
Yeah.
And if you lock that fence when people are jumping the fence and someone gets hurt before you get your electric gate, you could have someone not be able to get out in.
That's a valid point as well.
CCTV should. Well, until that's in place, Councillor Bond, some time ago you purchased Harris fencing. Where is it? Why have you put that in place? Why have I had to badger your council members that people are using it when the clerk has told me it's closed. If it's now open, that's different, but it's been closed. And I've called Vera, Councillor McKinnon has been dragged up, spoken to Councillor Smith, Tyra, Montague.
Yeah.
Where's the Harrows fencing?
The planning enforcement are completely happy with the height of the gate, and they've said that if they jump it, they jump it. We are meeting our requirements.
You check that with your insurance company.
The gates.
You're public liability.
Sorry.
Public liability.
Nigel, if I could just come into there, I think we've given an adequate answer to that one. To answer your question, the
Just a
gates,
point.
the gates won't be locked
Right,
until the electronic system is available. They will not be locked.
just experience.
Yeah. So does that help answer that?
Yeah, yeah, it was just a point.
Yeah, okay.
Can
Any, sorry.
I know that we run like this gentleman, because he's quickly go. Can you, there was some talk about the possibility it might be a good idea to have some sort of a hut or something to keep equipment in, that a committee could have, keep equipment in, to keep it clean, and I don't understand about skateboarding. Do you have to sweep them or something, or sweep the, do you know anything about any of that side of things?
It's no more than sweeping paths, if you're talking about
So-
that kind of thing.
Yeah, to keep them, they like to
But
keep.
I
them-
assume you, the same way you sweep the leaves off the
Yeah,
plate path for the
yeah.
kids.
I don't think that's
Yeah.
good thoughts in the moment yet, but thank you for that. Any of response from the public? Okay, right, we are onto any items I decide we move on. And 22, exclusion of the press and public, due to the nature of the sensitive material we're going to be discussing. I propose that we do the press and public.
Excuse me.
Yes, I just need it.
All right, yeah.
Second, yeah, I'm show hands for approval. Yes, if you need a restroom break. It has been an enormously long meeting. Thank you.